Go live, and here we go. Live from the Emerald City in Seattle, Washington, the UFO, Bigfoot, and paranormal hotspot of the Pacific Northwest. Coming directly to you, listening in around the world, this, my friend, is Spaced Out Sunday. I am your host, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer, occupying the captain's chair tonight for SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including all of our listeners on the digital side at Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can always find our archive shows for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us all a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, and catching up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by donating to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. And welcome everyone to the May 2nd, 2021 edition of Spaced Out Sunday. Hope you're all relaxing and kicking back with a warm hot toddy or a cold drink and just kicking your feet up in front of the fireplace tonight and enjoying yourself. My guest tonight is going to be the infamous author of the trilogy of the Kronos Rising. Max Hawthorne is with us tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about Paleo-Fiction and some really amazing things that he is up to with his new books. And then, of course, we have Peter Davenport from the National UFO Reporting Center, kicking off the top of our show here for the first usually half hour with some interesting sighting reports of UFOs from around the planet, including some fresh ones that happened just this morning that seem to be quite unique. And we're going to get started here with Peter. First of all, let's get Max on the line just to get a good sound check with Max. Max, how you doing?
I am great, Mike. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I always love that deep baritone voice of yours. So thank you for joining me tonight on the show.
Thanks for putting up with me.
You got it. And Peter, are you there?
I am here, loud and clear.
Okay, wonderful. Well, Peter, it has been quite an amazing week in UFO news, of course, just generally. Before we get to your sighting reports, but, the major issue that we're dealing with right now is this supposed triangle video that was confirmed by the Pentagon and the Department of Defense as coming directly from some sailor, an American sailor off of the West Coast, I believe it was, of basically an illuminated triangle that's flying over the Navy ships that they're on. So some people are kind of skeptical about that video and some people aren't, but it sure has been ramping up, to this supposed release of the unclassified UAP task force UFO report that everybody's chomping a bit to listen to. That's kind of been the latest news from the Navy. So there's lots of stuff going on, I'll bet, in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I've heard of that video, Michael, but have not seen it yet. Even my brother made a note of it, and he's pretty much a skeptic. So it must be pretty impressive video, I conclude.
Well, it's not. That's the weird thing. It's almost like, where's the beef kind of a thing, They're saying that it's a flying, not even a triangle, they're calling it a pyramid, a flying pyramid, and Yeah, there's no indication on the video that it's three-dimensional like a pyramid, only that it looks like a triangle. But it's strobing just like a commercial jet, and it's not very clear or crisp, so you wonder if it's been a misidentified object or something. But it's the strange thing is that the Pentagon is pushing it as being genuine, a genuine unknown at least. So anyway, it's been fascinating week here, and I'm sure that you have got some interesting things going on at the National UFO Reporting Center.
Yeah, it's been a busy week for me too, but we have a guest standing by out in the Mountain Time Zone, and he probably has an early day, so if you would permit, I'd like to just give a brief description of his sighting and then bring him on and let him tell his own story. When I first talked to him today, not just a few hours ago, I was so impressed with him and his matter-of-fact approach to his UFO sighting this morning, the 2nd of May, that I instantly concluded he would make a good guest. And to his great credit, he's been very gracious in consenting to come on the program. So I'll just give a little thumbnail sketch. This morning at, I think he said 10:45 Mountain Daylight Time, he was witness to a cluster of objects. And initially, whenever I hear of a cluster of objects, the first question I ask is whether the person is familiar with the Starlink satellites put up by Elon Musk that are often orbited in clusters or straight line clusters. But he assured me that he didn't think they were that. And to allow him to tell his own story, why don't we just bring him on, Michael? And I think we're going to use the pseudonym Joe and let him tell his own story.
Wonderful. Joe, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, great. If you can just stay close to that microphone there, I think we can hear you just fine.
All right. Yeah, as Peter was saying, this morning, around 10:45 a.m., I went out onto my back deck, made some smoothies for the kids, so I went out there so they wouldn't get them all over the carpet. And I have a chair in the back deck that kind of tilts backwards when you sit in it. It's like one of those canvasy chairs. And so I was sitting in that, which forced me to kind of look up. And to my left, which would be the northwest towards, you can see Pikes Peak Mountain from my left side of my back deck, I saw 7, maybe 6 of these white, I would say tic-tac size or pill-shaped white things. They were more pointy in the front and more rounded in the back. And one was in the lead and the others were kind of scattering back very close behind. They seemed to be very high up, far away, so the size of that was just my perspective from where I was sitting. They moved from the west across towards east at such an alarming rate that that's what caught my attention. They were moving so fast it was like, whoa, what is that? And the ones trailing behind, they didn't necessarily move in an exact straight line. They kind of sporadically went up and down and kind of moved very oddly. And the rate, the main thing that was alarming was the speed and the kind of the way they were shaped. And as I watched them go, once they cleared to where they were kind of straight back from my house, more so than west, I got my phone out immediately. I was like, oh my God, I got to film this. And when I hit, it's an iPhone, and I hit video, or I hit camera and then video, and then when I pointed it up and tried to get them into the screen, and when I hit the red button to record, it immediately went back to my home screen. And I did that one more time, and it went back to the home screen. And I thought, well, that's weird. I'm just going to watch it.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then as they got further east, and this is a blue sky. I mean, there's some big cumulus clouds, but it's pretty clear. It's usually even more clear, but we had a thunderstorm come in later this evening. As they went east, and I was trying to kind of go to the side of my deck and look out at them, the only way I could describe it, I had recently shown my 6-year-old some video of a sonic boom video, and these things didn't make any sound the whole entire time. But when I watched the video of the sonic booms with my son a few months ago, it makes like an aura kind of around the plane right before it does that. All of these did that same kind of bubbling, like where they swelled up, and an aura kind of thing went around them. And then one by one, with the first one leading the way, they went bloop, 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 through a little thing and just disappeared into blue sky. It's not like they went into a cloud or anything. And that was kind of the creepiest, where it was like, that wasn't an airplane, that wasn't anything that I've ever seen before, type of thing. And I ran inside to tell my wife. So yeah, it was very, very odd. And I've never seen anything like that, and I'm not the kind of person that is into this or thinks of this or thinks that it's even real, but that has changed. So,
oh my, what a detailed sighting report. I've got some great follow-up questions, but I'll let you take the lead here, Peter. Go ahead.
Wonderful report, Joe, and my instincts served me well. I'm relieved. You did a wonderful job of describing it. I have a question about the perceived size of the object. If you put them right next to a star, a planet, or a full moon, how big would they have appeared to you to be relative to those three standards? How big did they look to be?
Between the size of these things was all the same, and it would be, I would say, like, of a full moon, like out in space, would probably be like a quarter of that. So I would say bigger than a star, but not as big as like the moon out in open space. Not when the moon first comes up and it looks big, but when it's sitting up in the sky, I would say they were about a quarter in size to that, or maybe even a little less. Bigger than a star, but smaller than a sliver of the moon.
Yeah. That's a pretty prominent object. So were they pretty evident in the sky? In other words, if you'd been looking at the sky, could you have missed them, or not? Do you think?
No, I think that the reason why, if they went by before and you would miss them, was the rate at which they're moving. The whole thing from left to right out my back deck couldn't have been more than 10 seconds, and they traveled a very long distance. So it's not like when you look up and you see a small air. No.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's not like when you look up. I'm sorry, my wife was trying to say something. She's. Yeah, it's not like when you look up at an airplane and you see something flying, and it's kind of slowly grading across the blue sky.
Yeah.
This was like moving where you had to like move your head to keep an eye on all of them going across very rapidly.
If you could describe the cluster that you saw, if each one of these things were maybe smaller than a quarter size of the moon, if you would put your hand up at arm's length, would you have been able to cover the entire cluster of them, or would the cluster have been larger than your hand at arm distance?
No, if I put my hand out in a cluster, my hand would have covered the whole thing. They were flying in a tight-knit thing, close together, but very far up and high. So if I put my hand out as far as they could reach up, I would have been covering the whole area.
Okay, and you said there were about 6 or 7 of them within that area, huh?
Yeah, I would say 7. I tried to kind of count them and see, but when they were moving, the one in the front seemed to go kind of straight. The ones in the back kind of skipped up and down a little bit, as if they were not just flying straight.
Yeah. Now, I'm very interested in the fact that you said it looked as if they kind of had a glow around them, like they had a sonic boom glow around them, and then all of a sudden they disappeared. Did they disappear one at a time? Did they disappear in a certain spot? For instance, was it just one slit in the sky they disappeared at, or did they disappear individually?
No, it was like as if there was like a line in the sky, and as each one drove through that's where it made its flare up and then was no longer able to be seen. So it wasn't like all at the same time they all poofed and were scattered back.
Yeah.
They each one by one, as they went past that little area pretty rapidly because they're really close, flared up and then disappeared.
Did you happen to notice anything strange about that section of the sky? Whether there was indeed some kind of a slit in the sky or envelope or something?
No, the sky just, like I said, it was blue, and they were going away from me. At that point, they were far enough where I was kind of leaning over my deck, looking back or to the right, and nothing looked out of the ordinary. There was a couple of clouds further back, but I mean, not behind them, but like to the higher altitude or up, and then nothing in the sky seemed different.
Oh my, and you didn't happen to notice there were any other chase vehicles or craft or anything like that in the sky at that point, right?
No, there wasn't anything else in the sky that I could see.
I have a couple questions, Michael, for Joe.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with angles and degrees, do I presume correctly, Joe?
Angles of degrees, yeah.
Angles and degrees, measuring an angle in terms of degrees.
Yes, sir.
I'm curious to know how much of the sky these objects covered in how much time, and that's the distance covered is best measured in terms of an angle. Could you estimate the angle that passed through?
Well, yeah, from where I spotted them would have been, say, I would say my range of where I watched them would have been between like 25 and 30 degrees and 160 degrees before they were gone.
Oh.
So it was a pretty long angle across maybe that might be a little too wide. Maybe 20 or 30 degrees starting point of viewing to 140 degrees, maybe somewhere in there.
Uh-huh. But I thought you said they were going to the east.
They went across, well, if I'm looking, let's say, out my back deck, I'm standing at my back door looking at it now. If I was at my back deck looking to the west, and Pikes Peak from my back deck would probably be about a 30-degree angle of view. That's kind of where, above that, where I saw them. Then, tracking them across to the east, I would say that if I was swinging at 180 degrees from 30 over, I would say it'd be around 140 degrees across.
Boy. And how long did you see them? How long did it take to traverse that angle for them?
Somewhere between 7 and 10 seconds. I wasn't able to even do anything like that.
Yeah. Another question I have, Joe, while we have you, is as they were flying away from you, could you tell whether they were maneuvering relative to one another, or were they in an unwavering formation, fixed formation, as they flew across the sky?
They were kind of, the backward ones were more bouncing around a little bit, like not going straight, but they were mostly all going pretty much straight with a little bit of variances.
Huh.
Joe, would you know if there's anything unique at that location where they disappeared? Would there be any kind of a military base or interesting structure that you could see in that general vicinity?
I've only lived here since October, but I know, going that way, there's the Air Force Base, and we have lots of military things here, but if you were to continue to go that way, that's across the Air Force Base area.
Okay. So it's possible that maybe they disappeared over or near the Air Force Base in the area?
It's possible. That's the direction that we're going in.
Okay. Well, gosh, I don't know if Max has any questions for Joe. You've been very patient listening in on this. It's kind of an interesting report.
Not really. I saw something, as you guys know, many years ago myself, but it was different than that. So it's really, UFOs aren't exactly my strong suit. So
Sure.
I'm happy to just listen and learn.
All right. Well, gosh, Joe, this has just been very enlightening and quite an amazing report, by the way. You don't get this kind of quality of report very often, and it sure is nice that you're able to come on right away the same day and give us a kind of like your recollection of what happened here. Peter, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, I would just call to the attention of our audience that Joe is in Colorado Springs, which is very close to where the Air Force Academy is. So there may have been Air Force cadets who may have seen those things as well. Isn't the academy up on the west side of the highway there, Joe?
Hey, yeah, it's right off the west side, right as you come through the town of You come from Denver south, and you come through Monument, and then right after Monument on the right western side is the Air Force Academy. And that's what my wife said. Maybe it's something they're testing. I'm like, maybe, but maybe it's some kind of thing that they have that we don't know. The way those things are moving isn't like anything I've seen before.
Could I ask a question, actually? I'm sorry.
Go right ahead.
Joe, so when you said these objects took off, accelerated at extremely high speed, and they disappeared one by one, I might have misinterpreted, but it almost sounded like you were describing some sort of opening in the sky that they went into or something like that. Was it something to that effect?
Where they disappeared, they were going the same rate across the sky, and then once each of them hit that area, they kind of ballooned up, and then boom, 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 all of them kind of one by one as they went through.
So it seems like there was like they were going through something, or they were pulsing and then accelerated so fast they couldn't be seen, or they passed into something and disappeared.
It was. I'm sorry. It looked like they were going through something because it was as if they were each hitting the same area. And once they went past that same area, that's when they pulsed and then were gone. So it wasn't like they all turned on some kind of faster speed. It was as they hit some kind of barrier in the sky, they went bloop, 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 bloop through it.
Wow.
And then they were gone.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. As a matter of fact, Joe, did they all disappear at a certain spot as far as elevation, or was this just like a vertical slit? Some of them hit below, some of them hit high, and it was just a vertical thing that stopped or that caused them to disappear. Trying to get an idea of whether it was just one hole or it was like a slit in the sky.
It seemed like a wall, like a vertical, because they were all flying. One was in the front, and they were all kind of like geese or something, where they fly kind of trailing back off of each other.
Yeah.
But then it didn't matter if the lower one or whatever, whenever they got to that same area, that's when they went away.
Oh my goodness. Well, that is not the first time that we have heard that kind of disappearing into the slit UFO. Matter of fact, we've got James Clarkson with a story like that as well. The Washington State MUFON. Yeah. Oh, boy. This is wonderful. I appreciate. Is there anything else that you can remember, Joe, that you haven't told us yet, or any impressions that you got afterwards of this event?
The only impression I got afterwards was that all the stuff my wife's always talking about. Maybe she's right. She has said before, since we've moved here, she has stuff written down that 2 different occasions where she says, sworn, she's come in and woken me up because she's out on the back deck at night, and she says she's seeing things. And I just brushed her off. So, oh yeah, honey, okay, sure. And now I'm going to do it. Next time she tells me, I'm going to go look. Because I've never seen anything like that. I've never been a believer in anything like that. I'm like, okay, yeah. There's always a justifiable answer, and there's nothing that I can justify in my brain as to how it worked or what happened.
Joe, did they make any noise, like, or especially when they vanished through this wall, we'll call it?
No, there was no noise the whole time, and that's the other thing, that we get jets and things that fly around here, and it's very loud. You know, when they're practicing and doing flyovers with F-14s or whatever those are that they've got, and these things, it was absolute silence. So that's why when I first saw them, that was one thing where I was like, there's no way they could be, you know, and sometimes if the jet's way high, it takes long, and I was waiting for a sound. And there was no sound the entire time, even when they disappeared.
Did, you know, when those things flared up, like the sonic boom kind of, you know, visual effect, did that last a while, or did it just immediately disappear as soon as they disappeared?
No, the swell up around them was like instantaneous. It swelled up and then it was gone. And the next one, boom, swell up and gone. Like, it didn't last and it didn't stay.
Yeah. Have you ever had a problem with your iPhone like that?
No, that was the other thing that was like, that was bizarre, because I use this thing for work all the time, and it's, I mean, it's an iPhone, so it can go wrong, but it was weird that right when I was trying to, the one time I needed it to work the most, and I pointed it up there, it went back to my home screen when I hit the red record button, which has my kids' pictures on it. I'm like, what in the world? And I hit camera again and tried to do it again, and then it did the same thing, video, and then I hit the red record button and went back to the home screen. And I'm like, that is freaking weird.
Oh my goodness. Have you tried to use your iPhone in video mode since then to see if it actually continues to do that?
Yeah, I did that actually when I came back inside. I was showing my wife, I'm like, look, this didn't work before, now it's filming.
And then it worked, you're saying?
Yeah, everything worked fine.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
That is odd.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, we're going to let you go. Thank you so much for this firsthand account here. We really appreciate it coming on Spaced Out Sunday to relay this to you. I'm sure Peter Davenport will obviously be available to you if you have any follow-up, or if some other people say they saw the same thing. Who knows?
All right. Thanks for having me on. I'll check you guys out. So.
My gratitude to you, Joe. This is Peter, and also convey my gratitude to your wife for letting you come on with a bunch of strangers tonight.
All right.
And we are strange.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good
my
point.
goodness. Well, Peter, you outdid yourself on that one tonight. That was fascinating.
Wasn't he a good witness? I thought he did a superb job. He gave a wonderful report over the telephone earlier tonight, and that's when I realized that he would make a good guest for Spaced Out Radio.
Well, he was very detail-oriented, seemed to know his angles and all that stuff, and so he gave us a very good idea of what he saw. And it looked to me, I mean, the way he described it was those were very large objects, given the fact that they might have been the quarter size of a full moon, at night. I mean, that's a large object when you've got 6 or 7 of them clustered together that would probably have been the size of your hand, at an outstretched arm. So,
Yep.
oh my, that's quite, and I think the disappearing in the slit in the sky, that is so fascinating, and just kind of conjures up all sorts of strange physics out there.
Yep. That's a good case. I've got several more, but I'll hold them until next week for you, Michael.
Okay, yeah, we're down at the bottom of the hour here, so you can just relax, and thank you very much for this real timely report that happened this morning at 10:45 a.m. in Colorado Springs, Colorado. That was our sighting report that we kind of delved a deep dive into today. So thank you, Peter. Let's give everyone the information on how they can contact the National UFO Reporting Center if they've seen some interesting phenomena.
Thank you for that. If any of our listeners witnessed what they believe was a UFO, they're welcome to call. They're invited to call the UFO hotline, as Joe did tonight, which is area code 206-722-3000, 206-722-3000. And invariably, we ask people who call the hotline to follow up with a written report. A little bit harder to get them to write things down than it is to call and talk. But we have an online report form on our website. The address is ufocenter.com. And if anybody wants to correspond with me or the National UFO Reporting Center, they can send an envelope to P.O. Box 700, Davenport, Washington, Davenport, Washington. Zip code is 99122.
Okay, and that's always nice to have a town named after you out there, Davenport, Washington. So that's easy to remember if people needed to get a hold of you, and or if they've got a few extra dollars they'd like to send your way, Peter, for all the out-of-pocket expenses that you incur for, telephone bills and internet connection and all that stuff. You've been doing this for decades out of your own pocket, so I would encourage anyone that could support you in any way to do so as well.
Thank you, Michael.
Alrighty, well, you enjoy yourself for the rest of the weekend, and have a great week. We will hopefully talk with you next week with some more developments.
Look forward to it already. Good night to you and to Max.
Good night.
Thank you, buddy.
Well, gosh, that was wonderful. Well, thank you for indulging us there, Max, on that interesting first-hand report.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It was. You don't get that many sighting reports that pack a whole lot of different details into it like that one. Indeed. He's calling these tic-tac-shaped objects as well, so who knows,
Well, it definitely sounds like they were traveling in some sort of squadron formation, and it sounds like they had some sort of advanced technology to get out of Dodge, so to speak, or, so who knows?
Oh, yeah. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to go right back into the show, and we are going to have a fun time with you as my main guest for the night. And I am going to give you a proper introduction here real quickly, if I can, and explain that Max Hawthorne is known as the Prince of Paleo-Fiction. I just love that moniker, the Prince of Paleo-Fiction. Max was born in Brooklyn and attended school in Philadelphia, where he graduated from the University of the Arts, and he is the author of the award-winning Kronos Rising novel series, as well as Memoirs of Gym Rat, and outrageous expose on the health club industry. In addition to being a bestseller selling indie novelist, he is a blog talk radio host, a voting member of the Authors Guild, and an IGFA world record holding angler. And that's a guy right up my neck of the woods here. I love fly fishing and sport fishing myself. His hobbies include archery, fishing, boating, boxing, and collecting of fossils and antiquities. He lives in the greater Northeast with his wife, daughter, and enormous Siberian forest cat, who when he's not stalking Max's toes, sleeps on his desk, as he writes. Max, thank you again for joining us on Spaced Out Sunday. How have you been since the last time we had you on, and tell us a little bit about how your series is going.
I've been great. We actually have 2 Siberian forest cats now, Mace and Olaf. I got the doors shut, so hopefully Olaf will not break into my office and interrupt like he's been known to do. If you see some ginormous tail walking by like a flag in front of me, you'll know that I have a 20-pound cat on my desk.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but I've been great. I've been getting back into exercise, enough of this, whole isolation thing or whatever you want to call it, etc. Lost 32 pounds already and feeling good and writing multiple books at the same time and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I can't complain.
Oh, that is wonderful. It is difficult as a writer to have a routine that you enjoy and then also get your exercise in, which you have done most of your life as a certified gym rat. So I would imagine that that's quite important to you, I would imagine.
A certified gym rat. Not just a regular gym rat, a certified one.
That's right.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. I've always been an active person and in the outdoors, but believe it or not, like, how you like fishing, I sometimes tie that in with my writing. I will actually do hard copy editing of a chapter or two, and I'll go to a local lake without the boat, just for sure, and I'll bring my folding chair and a cooler and a chapter and 2 rods and some stake in the ground rod holders and some bait. And I'll sit under a tree and I'll put out some bait, and then I'll sit there with my clipboard and I'll edit. And every so often, zzz, a rod goes off and I jump up, set the hook, catch a fish, take a picture, let them go, cleaning my hands, because my editor does not like when you hand him stuff that smells like fish. Yeah, like, what the heck happened to this manuscript, But, so forth. So it's fun. You get to,
That would be heaven for me. Yeah, I mean, exactly. I consider myself, I don't know about you too, but I consider myself a better editor than I am a writer. I just enjoy editing. For some reason, just going over something that is kind of raw on a page and making it a little bit better. I really get into the zone doing that, and sitting there on the bank of a lake, on Golden Pond. Oh my gosh, that would be fun.
It is, and the editing is. When I do my first round of editing through, and I edit as I go, and whenever I finish my day's work, I always completely edit it. I mean, it's like pretty much ready to go to, the big guy. But it's like when I read it, I go through the first time, and I'm like, what? It's like, who wrote this, an orangutan?
Yeah.
And I mean, I spare myself, I give myself no pity. Let's put it that way. But you're just kind of the creative juices are flowing, and you're just kind of putting the skeleton down, and then as you flesh it out more and more and more, the magic takes place. It's like half of it is the original stuff, and the editing and shaping of that, sculpting that, is what really brings it to life.
Yeah, you're right. And I often wonder how certain writers, that I admire, would approach editing their own manuscripts. Like, for instance, I can't really even imagine Hunter S. Thompson writing something more than just once.
Well, I look at stuff like Edgar Rice Burroughs' work and people like that, and Robert E. Howard, people I read growing up as a kid, and they had a big impact on me. But I'm thinking back, and they had no computers. They had no Microsoft Word. They had typewriters and handwritten stuff. And it's like, I would lose my mind if I didn't have the technology I have, where I can cut and copy and paste and search for things and, all that stuff. I mean, God bless. It's, I don't know how they did it.
No, it's, I suppose that their mindset must have been much slower than ours. To be able to sit there in front of a piece of paper and write longhand a story, I can imagine them thinking about it a lot more before they even wrote it on a page of paper, because you'll see some of those old manuscripts that don't really have a lot of editing done on them. They're just, kind of flowing out. Like you said, I'm like you. I'm amazed that people could put dialogue together like they do in such a coherent and impressive form that really kind of adds nuance to a story and without hardly any effort, it seems like.
Well, I don't know how, I have no idea, obviously, how many words or pages they wrote in a day. But, I will tell you this. When I'm in the zone, I usually do 2,000 words a day. But that's like fully edited, polished, etc. And that's a lot. That's what Stephen King in his prime used to do.
Wow.
So, but, it's at the end of the day, everybody has their style and what works for you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, my, that's impressive. 2,000 words that have been edited also at the end of a day. That is, oh my goodness.
And believe me, at least half of those are not expletives. So
yeah, there you go. Oh, that's quite creative. To be able to do that, no wonder you're such a prolific author, in that regard. So tell us about how the Kronos Rising series is going. And I know some people out there probably would not know, just a few, what Kronos Rising is all about. So maybe you can give us a little thumbnail sketch of your series there as well.
Okay. Well, first, I would encourage anybody who's watching to go on Amazon, and you can either look up me, Max Hawthorne, or the Kronos Rising series with a K. But basically, it's a series of sci-fi thrillers that people have said is like Jaws meets Jurassic Park. They actually developed that hashtag back in the day based on my books. But it's kind of like, it started off with the first book, which was, I guess, kind of like Jaws meets Jurassic Park, a giant prehistoric marine reptile, a species of pliosaur that ended up, I guess I'm going to go into some spoilers here, but I needed a realistic way of how you could have prehistoric life, marine life, here in the present, without it being something hokey or schlocky or that had been done to death before. You want to achieve a suspension of disbelief. So what I did was, as part of the backstory, is I created a caldera, which is a volcano that's lost its entire cone, let's say, and it's just a bowl-shaped depression, a volcanic caldera off an island off the coast of Cuba, called Diablo Caldera, obviously popularly named. And this caldera had been around since the Cretaceous. So when the Chicxulub impact took place, the asteroid that wiped out all the non-avian dinosaurs, and it impacted it in that general region, one of the side effects it did was it created mega tsunamis, 1,000 meters high or something. And so I used that to an enormous wall of ocean to sweep up and envelop that caldera and keep going. And as that receded, it filled that caldera with salt water and turned it into a giant fishbowl. And inside that fishbowl was a whole ecosystem of prehistoric marine life, which was heated by geothermal vents, so the animals survived ice ages, etc., to the present. And then obviously volcanic eruptions, deterioration, it temporarily split open, and some of what was in there escaped into the Atlantic. And then lo and behold, when you release a mega predator, an apex predator like a pliosaur, into a new ecosystem, it's going to do what any other apex predator is going to do. It's going to establish its new territory. It's going to set up territory for itself. It's going to find things to feed on. It's going to look to mate, to reproduce, etc. And of course, it comes into conflict with things that it wouldn't expect: whales, killer whales, people, boats, etc. So it's kind of set the stage for that. And since our oceans are so the ocean, a lot of marine life has suffered. Obviously, I don't want to get into a whole conservationist thing, but you know what goes on with shark finning and what's happened to whales, etc. So there was really very little to keep this animal in check. And God forbid it to reproduce, then obviously the whole planet could potentially be in trouble. So that laid the groundwork for an exciting initial novel, and then I expanded it into a whole Kronos Rising universe. I moved 30 years into the future with different technologies and the effects this animal, which had multiplied, have on the ecosystems of the world and the food webs and everything else. It's a really exciting series. I'm very happy about it. People are already clamoring for the next book, but I'm working on something else first. So.
Oh man, I think that is really a genius idea. How you created the believable backstory of this thing, basically inhabiting a caldera, in its own environment and kind of surviving, the various calamities on the planet in that kind of an arena, and then escaping out and, repopulating itself and all that stuff. Did you also develop some interesting characters, for instance, like the old crusty sea captain in Jaws and those kinds of guys that are having to deal with these creatures?
Well, you got to keep in mind also, 65 million years, this species was imprisoned in this caldera. So they have evolved and changed, obviously, over that time period. But the cast of characters, we'll call it, you have two main protagonists, which is a coastal town sheriff who used to be actually a competitive saberman, fencer, Olympic caliber, who gave up his career and just settled into being a coastal town sheriff named Jake Braddock, who kind of looks after a fictitious town called Paradise Cove down in Florida. And then there is a female protagonist, a woman named Amara Takagi, who is a cetaceanist. She studies whales, so she's like a marine biologist. And she's in charge of a research ship called the Harbinger. And the Harbinger is actually a refitted whale killer, which is a nice little twist on there. So it still has the harpoon cannon on the front of it, which has been obviously disarmed, shall we say, mothballed, etc. But left there as a symbol because it's actually a research ship that studies whales rather than hunting and killing them, etc. And these two kind of end up in an alliance, but also a collision, because ultimately she's trying to keep this creature alive. He wants to put it down for all the people that it's killed and eaten, including friends of his, including a crusty sea dog, we'll call it, who a captain who Jake actually worked for as a mate when he was a young teenager. And this man and his nephew go out and they have a fatal encounter with this creature and so forth. A lot of other people do. So.
Oh my! Oh, I just love how you fleshed that out, and that is interesting that you picked a protagonist figure who is a former Olympic fencer. How did you come up with that?
It's my uncle's fault.
Oh.
You see, one of my uncles, who's probably not watching the show, so whatever, but he was the captain of NYU's fencing team many decades ago, etc., and a national saber champion. And he was supposed to go to the Olympics the year that it was boycotted in Russia. It was in Russia, so we boycotted it, so he never got to compete. And my dad had always told me all these stories about him, etc. So that was sort of the inspiration for Jake. Obviously, Jake and my uncle are nothing alike. But I know my uncle read the book because he sent me an email at one point. He goes, "Yeah, I really like the character of Jake, this fencing guy. He seems like a really great guy." I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Can't be you then, because, you're... But anyway.
Oh my, that is cool. Now, what's the difference? What's the difference between a fencing competition and a saber competition? Well,
it's a type of sword that they use in the fencing competitions. You have a foil, which is the lightest one. It's very flimsy, and it has only the tip and a pay, if I'm pronouncing it right, which is a little stouter. But the saber, you can actually score hits with the blade as well as the tip in combat. Whereas the other swords, you have to hit them with a point, like a thrust.
Yeah.
Like that. So the saber is more like a broadsword or a cutlass or something like that.
Now, does this sheriff use any of his fencing or saber skills in the book at all?
Oh, without getting into too many spoilers, but he doesn't compete anymore, and he hasn't done it. He had a traumatic life experience that caused him to flush his career down the toilet, which is why he's now just a sheriff of a coastal town, etc. People want to have a beer with him. They want to get his autograph, still pose with him, etc. Because he was a big sports figure, years earlier, etc. But there is he does have a major development toward the end of of the book where he does call upon his sword fighting skills to save somebody's life.
Cool.
And his own.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. And of course, it's always interesting when you pick a location for your novels. Were you using a specific? I don't know if you can, divulge this, but did you use a specific location as kind of like something that you built a story around, even though it's a fictional name?
Well, I mean, I go to Florida often, down there from the Keys and everywhere else, the Gulf Coast, and fish many times. Will be again. It's more Disney and the Disney cruises these days. I have a little girl, but it's. I invented a town called Paradise Cove, but I actually believe there is a real Paradise Cove down in Florida.
I'll bet.
Mine's not based on it, of course, but mine is based on. There's a fictitious marina there called Harcourt Marina, which is owned by this senator who is the major malevolence antagonist of the book, Dean Harcourt. And but it's a coastal town. It's got a thriving community that functions like most of the communities down there do there, which is fishing and tourism and that type of stuff.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Kind of straight out of Jaws too. There with the character that was in charge of the. Well, I think he was he a sheriff? That was the guy, the local law enforcement guy in Jaws. I can't remember if it was a sheriff or county.
Oh, he's the chief of police.
Chief of police. Yeah. That was cool.
Brody, start that chum line again. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, Jake and Brody are nothing alike.
Yeah. So. Okay. All right. Well, that's good.
Believe me.
Now you say you're working on. You're working on something new now, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, I just had a book just released last month, actually.
Oh, but let's talk about that.
Well, unfortunately, this is an ARC copy, so it has this band across the top. I don't know if I can get this in here or not. But this is the latest book that I did called Monsters and Marine Mysteries. And this is actually a book on marine cryptids and such, and a little bit of terrestrial stuff. And this is actual research that I've done, years of it, all combined into one book. So there are some personal sightings of mine in here. There are people that I've interviewed that have seen and had horrifying experiences on the water, been attacked by giant unknown marine creatures, etc. And nobody knows these people are alive.
Whoa.
I mean, it's incredible. And I was able to track them down and video interview them and everything. In fact, one guy, he saw this immense turtle that Gary LaMotta saw. He was with Gary when he saw it. And I'm going to go up, hang out with him in Canada, actually, probably later this summer. And we're going to go to the spot where they saw this creature.
Oh, my. Now, a gigantic turtle meaning, like, how big?
Well, this is in 1969. A fisherman named Gary LaMotta and his friend Earl, they were out in their boats, and they encountered a shellless sea turtle that was 38 feet long. Now,
whoa!
Picture that. That's the size of a bus. Okay?
And it looked like the shape of a sea turtle without a shell. Is that what you're saying?
Sort of like they said it was kind of built like, it was sort of like a leatherback, but not exactly, but built like a sea lion. But it was a turtle. And the astonishing thing, and it's in the book, I mean, if I pull the images up here, it's not going to do us any good because they're black and white and such.
Yeah.
I'll try. I would have thought Mark would have sent you some stuff, but let me see if I can find it in here.
This sounds to be a real exciting book, with actual real life stories.
Oh, there's hundreds of images in here. There's accounts, there's details, there's graphs, I did number crunching on everything. See, you can't really, it's like, it doesn't show in here. If you see this, I'm trying to turn this.
Yeah.
But this is the guy used a Super 8 camera, and he filmed this thing, and this is it when it stuck its head up out of the water.
Okay.
And the head and neck alone was 8 feet long. Just to give you an idea.
Yeah.
But, and this animal was an enormous turtle of sorts. Very fast swimming. It was frolicking on the surface, etc. The one guy got there first, Gary, and he was filming it with a Super 8 camera. He was obsessed with it. He was filming everything with his Super 8 camera. Like boys with toys. and stuff. And then he was called radioing his friend to get over there as quick as he could. By the time he pulled up, the thing had submerged, and it was sitting on top of a rock ledge under them. So they had their two boats above it, and they were looking down at this thing, and it was immense, and as big as their boats, which were 38 feet boats. That's how they were able to gauge the size of it.
Yeah.
But and then it kind of like cruised off, and it took off very quickly. But pale gray, all the details are in the book. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff in there. But,
and this was in what kind of a body of water?
Vancouver Island.
Oh, I see.
Canada. So
oh,
the
my.
West Coast. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
And I explored a lot of stuff in there, including my theory that this species, and I found historical sightings of so many versions of this same turtle. Sea monster sightings, the Pensacola attacks, etc., that appear to be this same species. One of them is as recent as, let me think about this, I think it's in the 90s or early 2000s, and I just spoke to a guy who saw one in the 90s as well, off of Pensacola as well. But this creature appears to be a piscivore. It feeds on fish, including sharks. Whoa. And my theory is that this is the super predator. You know that thing that was in the news years back about shark alpha being consumed by something, and they were said, oh, it was just a bigger great white. Oh, maybe it was an abyssal megalodon, all this stuff. Nothing matched up. A turtle, a leatherback to be exact, fills all the gaps in the theory except for the size and the ability to eat a shark. And this animal, having no shell like a leatherback, seems to be the culprit.
Yeah.
You know, Gary described it as being capable of terrific speed, 38 feet long. You know, it's obviously a carnivore. That's the way it was acting, size, etc. You know, this is, it's just unbelievable. And it's not like this thing doesn't exist, because he has this old film of it. So once you look at the frames I enhanced, and you can see the eyes and the beak and the folds of skin on the throat and everything, the ridges around the eyes and stuff, you can tell once you look at the old film, yes, we're looking at some immense turtle's head and neck sticking up out of the water and looking at us. So it's not like it doesn't exist. It definitely exists. And I think it's the thing that ate that shark and many other creatures. So
I've seen a picture of that shark with the giant bite out of the side of it. It's almost unbelievable to think that there was something bigger than a shark that could do that. And that might be it.
Well, I mean, there are, like, loggerhead turtles, for example. They are carnivorous or omnivorous. They'll eat lobsters, they'll eat fish, they'll eat even small sharks. And they only get to supposedly 1,200 pounds. Although I personally, gosh, it's got to be 25 years ago or close to it, I saw one off of the coast of New York, about 20 miles offshore on a shark fishing trip. There was a dead loggerhead that was upside down. And this thing was the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. And it's got to be way more than 1,200 pounds. This thing dwarfed the existing world record, we'll call it, for that species. So, you know, the notion that there could be another species of giant sea turtle out there that's even bigger, it doesn't strike me as that far-fetched, to be honest. Yeah. Not after seeing Gary's footage. So.
Oh, that's exciting. And you're going on an expedition to check it out.
I am. I'm going to go there. I'm going to bring Earl, his friend, out there. We spoke at length and all. We're going to take a charter boat out. We're going to get an underwater drone we're going to send down, all sorts of stuff.
Oh, man. Oh, that's great.
I'm excited about it. I don't, the odds of, that animal being in the vicinity is 1,000,000 to 1, or one of them. But you never know. Maybe they use that area as a spawning area, to give birth or something like that, or they follow the salmon runs. We've been checking into all that stuff. It's not just that one area, though. I mean, the Bremer Canyon is in Australia. This species must be cosmopolitan. So,
that's fascinating.
I got to tell you, I'm sorry, but I know, this is shameless plugging, but I don't normally do, research, like this. Okay, but I'm going to tell you, this book is my first #1 bestseller, and it's been the #1 new release in both marine biology and even paleontology.
Oh, wow.
So I delved into that for it. So, and the reviews have been incredible. So, anybody wants, I've got info on the Kraken, meaning not some fictitious creature, but squid out there that are big enough to kill and eat whales. And there's evidence. Okay, I delved into... I talked about this young Bigfoot that I saw that was swimming in Connecticut many years ago. Just tons of stuff.
Oh,
There's
my.
Yeah, so it's a pretty cool book.
And I love the cover art there. Who did that for you?
No, this is this is actually from the 1800s. It's an ancient woodcut of a giant squid or octopus attacking a sailing ship. But the rest of the book, I mean, the cover obviously was done by professionals. Yeah. They added, additional imagery down here because I think this was cut off a tear and, all the stuff that they do. But, there is, and this is actually based on, well, probably not at the time, but there was a ship called a schooner named the Pearl that in front of witnesses, including another boat, was attacked and sunk by a squid that was bigger than the ship.
Oh yeah. My.
It was on the surface. They shot at it. It charged the schooner. It wrapped around it like this, and it hauled it onto its side and pulled it under, and killed most of the people on board.
Oh, so. My. That's fascinating stuff. Okay, well, listen, Max, we have to take our break here at the top of the hour. We're going to come back here after 6 minutes, so you get a chance to relax, kick back for a while, and we will get ready to come back again with Spaced Out Sunday, and in just a few moments with more of Max Hawthorne after this.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblelicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit. Bumble, we're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby. And tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at thejobs.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and we have some cool swag for you to pick up. All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend. Woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Hi, this is Amber Becker, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Hey Space Travelers, this is John Breslin, founder of the Tribe and Tribe Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little different. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor of Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Tribe Charities, just go to tribecharities.org/donate.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I can find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Sunday. I am your host, the paranormal lawyer, Michael W. Hall. Thanks for joining me. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 in New Orleans, Louisiana. On the digital side, we are proud to be on Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can always check our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot and shopping in our Spaced Out Radio store and catching up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and so much more. And we are back here with my special guest tonight, Max Hawthorne, and we are talking about his new book, which is really a fascinating kind of book that's about real cryptids. Now, Max, did you say something that was fascinating to me about a Bigfoot sighting that you had yourself?
Yes, and by the way, I apologize. I thought I had it muted before. I was yelling at one of the cats. I didn't mean to interrupt you there or anything. I have them in my office now, unfortunately. Mace is being good and asleep on the desk, but Olaf is going to be causing problems like that. Oh,
not a problem at all.
Yes. Yeah, it's the sighting. This happened. Gosh. When I was in my late 20s, so it's got to be about, I'm going to say, 27, 28 years ago. I mean, all the details are in there, but we used to have a lake house on Candlewood Lake in Danbury, and so I would go up there, frequently when I was a teenager in my 20s and stuff, and go up there for sometimes good patches of the summer and take the boat out and fish, and oh my God, I'll be right back. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it sounds like a perfect On Golden Pond story where a young boy goes out to the lakefront and encounters something strange out in the lake.
So professional, that cat.
That's all right.
So anyway, I should have known better. They were out there crying, and I felt bad, and I opened the door, and one of them is a gentleman, the other one is a psychopath. So, so what happened is that, to set the stage, is like, Candlewood Lake is a very large lake. It's got 50 miles of coastline. And part of it connects to this lake called Squance Pond. When Squance is technically part of Candlewood, so they're connected. Like, picture like a real big lake and then a smaller lake, let's say. I think Squance is maybe 2 miles long, something like that. But and it's like a state park. It's government land. And then it has like a state park forest that, attaches to it that goes out that way, etc. So when we would go there, you have a choice. You can go out on Squance to fish. You can go out on Candlewood to fish. Me and my brothers, 2 of them, we decided we were going to fish from shore. And there's a causeway that separates these 2 lakes. It's a man-made, big giant pile of rocks that comes up that has an asphalt road on the top, and the rocks to keep the lakes connected so that water can flow and animals can travel back and forth. There's like a big concrete steel reinforced tube in a tunnel submerged there for it. So there's the rocks have crayfish all over them. There's a lot of smallmouth bass around there sometimes, so it's a good place to set up shop, and you can stand on there, sit in the hill, and cast down and fish. So we decided to go there, crack of dawn, got up. It had been a miserable, raining night, and that morning was still gray and hazy as all heck. But we figured we'd give it a shot. Turned out to be a waste of time because there had been so much rain that the water was like coffee or dark tea. Visibility was bad.
Yeah.
But we got there, we set up shop, we put out some minnows under bobbers and stuff, and we're fishing the Squance side. And after about half an hour, Lenny and Squee decided they were going to go up and cross the road on the other side of the causeway to fish the Candlewood side, so they left. And I decided to stay. I was like, haha, I'll show you guys. I'm going to catch a huge bass, and you're going to be jealous and whatever. So, we're young guys, competitive. So I'm sitting there, and I'm on this, like I said, on this rocky hill. It's chunks of rock, not very comfortable. And I see something out there moving around in the water. It was pretty far out initially. And so I thought when I first saw it, I was like, ooh, a huge fish on the surface. But then I realized it wasn't a fish. And then I thought, okay, that must be a muskrat. But it was getting a little closer. It was bigger. And I said, it must be a beaver. And I'm like, that doesn't look like a beaver, But it was like a beaver sort of color, like a reddish brown, hairy, And it was on the surface, and then it would go under. And it would stay under for, 30 seconds or a minute or whatever it was. And it would come up, and this time it would be X number of feet closer, And so I started looking at this thing. I'm like, what is that? I had nothing else to do. There was no fish biting and stuff. And there was nobody around. So I don't know if this was a weekday and it was 6 in the morning, everybody was still asleep, or if it was a weekend, everybody was still asleep. But, it was just us, or me at this point. But, so this thing starts getting a little bit closer, and it's still far out there. I don't know if it was 100 feet away at this point or what, but I started realizing it sort of looked like a head that I was seeing. This round dome-shaped thing would come up, and it was very hairy, and then it would go under again. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. And I wasn't afraid or anything like that. I had no idea what it was at first. And I'm like, maybe it's a deer, Yeah. But it was a deer's head and neck comes up like a Loch Ness Monster type routine, et cetera. It doesn't wasn't like that.
Yeah.
And then, like, I noticed that it wasn't just a head, like the top of a head. It was like there was parts behind it. When it would come up, you could see it if you looked, trailing something long, And I'm like, I was like, okay, so maybe this is somebody's Irish setter. There's like a huge Irish setter swimming in the lake. It was like sort of that color, that reddish brown.
Yeah.
And so, like, it was. You could see, like, the length behind it. And then I started realizing this is not a dog. It had, like, this dome-shaped head. And then you could see parts behind it. There was, like, sort of, like, legs behind it. And the legs, and I'm assuming it was a bipedal creature because it seemed to have legs like a person, sort of. When it moved, the legs didn't kick like a flutter kick like a person would do or, a frog kick. They moved together, like when you see people, like wearing those mermaid costumes and stuff, like girls.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
like a butterfly stroke with your leg.
The legs stay together.
Yeah.
And if you had like a flipper that had like a flukes on the end or something like that, but there were no flukes.
Yeah. Oh, that's a fascinating idea. Oh man.
So what happens is that I'm looking at this thing and I have no idea what I'm looking at, and I wasn't into like Bigfoot or anything else like that. Okay, but So I'm staring at this thing, and it's getting closer, closer. Maybe it's 60 feet away at this point. I don't know. But and then I thought, I want to get a look at this thing because it was about 5 feet long, at least what I saw. Okay, so if it was a Bigfoot, it was definitely not an adult, in my opinion.
Okay.
But so when it was around like 50 feet or so away, I decided I wanted to get a closer look at it. So I wanted to back up the hill so I could see further down on it, a better angle or something like that, so you weren't like, and as I did that, I dislodged like a few rocks, and this thing must have become aware of me, and I think that whatever it was eating the crayfish that are in all those rocks down there. Like it would dive down and get some crayfish, and then it would come back up for air, and then it would go back down, and it was working its way towards that tunnel that connects these two lakes or whatever, or something like that. So when it realized I was there, it submerged quite actively, let's say. And it went under like this, and this was the part that freaked me out, was that as it went under, I saw it had arms. I saw one arm. I saw the shoulder, the upper arm, the elbow, and the forearm, like this, break the water. Okay, and it had a very distinctive elbow. There was no denying it. And its arms are like the size of my arms, which are not small, mind you, but it seemed like it was, and it was covered with long, like wet, soaked, obviously, hair that was streaming in water.
Yeah.
And the arm came like this, and then it went under, like that. And then I was like, what the heck am I looking at? Unless somebody had an orangutan, and I don't think orangutans are known for, being good swimmers and stuff. So this thing then, it was underwater, and I could see its shadow moving quickly underwater. It was swimming actively, and it was headed for the tunnel between, the two, the causeway. And I saw, like, the ripples as it went through. So I was like, whoa. So I rushed up the top of the hill, almost got creamed by a car, and went across to the guys, and I ran. I'm like, hey. I said, there's a hairy red thing. That's how I described it. Okay? A hairy red thing. I said, it's going to come through this tunnel right now. I said, watch. You're going to see it. Like that. And they look at me like I'm out of my mind. But this thing was faster than I was. And by the time I went up the hill, crossed the thing, and it came down the other side, it had already jetted through. So there was nothing.
Oh,
and
man.
they're like, really? But then off to the left, maybe, 100 feet away, around the shoreline there, this is the Candlewood side now, there's all these lily pads, which would be great for bass fishing and stuff, obviously, right in front of them or whatever and stuff. And the lily pads, I don't know how deep they went, maybe 20 feet of it, 15 feet, but something was crashing through the lily pads, like disturbing stuff as it was moving. And I thought, well, that could be like a really huge fish, but it seemed to be traveling and disturbing things as it went, and we never saw it again after that, though. That's what happened. And it didn't dawn on me until many years later that this was some sort of hairy, like, ape-like creature or something like that. It had to be, because it had human anatomy, so to speak.
Oh, man. When it was crashing through the lily pads, was this underwater crashing through, or was this like chopping?
If it came up, you could see the lily pads like bouncing, like getting disturbed and stuff like that. So it may have popped its head up under a lily pad to inhale.
Yeah.
You couldn't see anything. There was plants covering. And the weird part is when I was doing some of the research for Monsters and Marine Mysteries, I had like Googled areas, and I found that from like the early 1900s, like 1918 or something like that, on that lake, there was like this old newspaper article that said fishermen on Candlewood Lake report encounter with hairy wild child. That's how they described it. And yeah, and I asked, like, I know some people that are obviously, Bigfoot researchers, etc., and they said, well, that makes sense because back then the term Sasquatch or Bigfoot was not in use.
Yeah.
So when they saw a creature like that, that's what they said, a hairy wild child. So I don't know if this is some other species or if it's the juveniles or like to go into the water and swim and stuff like that. But it was something to see. Let me tell you.
Oh, that is fascinating, and the fact that potentially these animals are these Sasquatches, whatever it is, are that good as swimmers and could hold their breath that long. That's fascinating.
It was definitely submerged for it. You would stay down for 30 seconds, a minute. I don't think it was very, how can I say this? It wasn't coming up for air and being like, it wasn't having respiratory problems.
Yeah.
It was just coming up quietly and then going back down. And like I said, I believe it was feeding on all the crayfish there.
Yeah.
It would probably go down, grab a crayfish, eat them, come up, whatever. It's protein, it's easy to find, tasty, like shrimp.
Yeah, and of course, you're saying that even underwater, it was moving pretty fast, you were saying.
When it realized I was there, because, you're just kind of sitting there, I wasn't making any noise or like that, and, Huey and Dewey were, I love calling my brothers these names when they're not around. But anyway, Huey and Dewey were on the other side there, so they were, weren't a problem.
Yeah.
But once it became aware of me and it started swimming, it moved very quickly. And I think they keep their legs together and kick like a dolphin or something like that. That's what it looked like.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I was a collegiate swimmer myself in college, and I could see someone doing the butterfly kick, but doing a butterfly kick underwater is difficult because normally you're going to do the fly with your arms above the water to compensate for the kick in the back. So the way that you would do it underwater is very, very difficult, you would think. Maintaining a dolphin kick, but doing something with your arms to be able to move you forward.
I don't know what it was doing with its arms, to be frank. I mean, I saw the arm when it came over the surface there, and I don't know if it was doing a crawl stroke or it just turned like that to go down fast.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it could have been propelled entirely by its legs for all I know. I have no idea. All I saw was a shadowy form moving under the water and rippling as it went through. Because the water was really bad. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting idea, too, because obviously he's able to see quite well in turbid water for some reason as well. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I wasn't about to jump in there. And it's funny because I was telling him, I said, come on, we're going to try and hook it. Get, with like a crankbait. I said, $20 for whoever snags the hairy red thing. Can you imagine?
Oh, man, yeah.
Yeah. Or something big taps you on the shoulder. Don't. Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's my son.
Oh, man. Oh, that's fascinating. So, so the fact is that you've had some interesting experiences yourself. You've had a UFO sighting. You've had a Bigfoot sighting. Any other strange paranormal activity in your life as you're growing up or as you're an adult?
Besides my mother-in-law, you mean?
There you go.
Well, I know we're going to go on a break soon, but there is.
No, we got another half hour to go before we're only going to go to a break at the top of the hour. How about that?
Oh.
We'll just keep going right through the bottom.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, I mean, I covered a lot of different species and sightings and stuff like that. Most of it is from other people, witnesses. But there is like, I've had two personal encounters with things, And one of them I never spoke about publicly before, and I don't know if I want to even on the show, but I'll think about it. But it's definitely in the book. But the other one I have discussed previously. I don't know if we ever talked about it, but it's my daughter and I. This goes back to November 22nd of 2016, a date that's burned into my brain, and we encountered a winged creature that's not supposed to exist.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh my.
And there's in the book there's the drawing I did of this thing's face after we saw it, and what it looked like, in the headlights as it was suspended there and stuff. But I had picked up my daughter from aftercare, and it was dark. This is November 22nd. Obviously, it's dark much earlier here, and so it was around 6:30 p.m. We had got out of aftercare and popped by our local store and picked up some stuff, and then we were driving along towards my house. And where I live, there's a lot of woods. Like, the woods is about 60 feet to my right, where I'm sitting right now. Okay.
Okay.
And we get deer, and there's a bobcat that lives back there, and I've had a mountain lion wander through the yard one time. So, we get a lot of creatures, eagles, everything. It's great, but anyway, what I'm just saying is it's not like, the city. So, I remember it was cold and it was blustery that night. I think the temperature was around 36 degrees, something like that. And it had been like snow flurrying, but the snow wasn't sticking. Partially because it was very windy, it kept swirling around, and partially because I think at 36 degrees, it wasn't, cold enough for it to start sticking yet, So we're driving down the street, working our way along a level area before we go up this hill, and there's some houses around and the woods off to the left and ahead of us. And I saw something in the street ahead of us, something small and dark, like, in the middle of the street. And I actually said out loud, I'm like, oh, there's something in the road ahead, which caused Ava, who was 7 at the time, to lean, this way from her car seat. So she was looking at it too. And, which I guess is a good thing, because otherwise I would have thought I lost my mind after this. But, so I thought it was a box initially, like a dark box or something like that. And so I started going super slow, and my plan was to straddle it with my tires because I didn't want to run it over. I mean, it could have been a box of nails, or who knows what. You don't want to, take a chance. So I'm crawling towards it and centering my wheels to make sure. And it wasn't big, And then as we're getting closer to it, I'm 40 feet away or whatever it is, the box starts to move. Now at this point, I'm telling myself, okay, so it's really windy out because you could see the flurries, blowing around a little and stuff. Visibility wasn't great. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great. And I'm thinking, okay, this must be the lid of the box is popping up. So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. And as we got closer, I start seeing like it's some sort of critter, like some thing. It starts pushing itself upright and it's sort of looking at us. And, I could see it in the headlights. And I'm staring at it. I guess I was around, I'm going to say 30 feet away at this point. And I had pretty much come to a full stop. And it looks up at us, and its face, it's like a dark gray, like the skin, and it had black eyes, black, I didn't see any pupils or, irises or whatever, so, and its mouth was blackish, and it looked at me, and it had kind of scraggly stuff back here, kind of almost like it was, I don't know, sticking out of I don't say a mane, but there was something back there, and it had this look on its face like this, kind of like that. You couldn't hear anything because we were in the car, and it was dark, the windows are closed and all that, and the heat's on. Well, but it seemed, I don't know if it was making a sound or just hissing or something like that, but it's a very angry look on its face. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the head wasn't big. I'd say about the size of an apple, maybe.
Okay.
And I'm looking at it now. I'm like, I think I said out loud, I'm like, No, I don't think I said it yet. No, I take that back. But and I'm staring at it, and my brain starts thinking, "Is that an animal?" You know, so like I started churning through the animal kingdom at light speed in my head.
Yeah.
Especially everything I knew from that area. Opossum, no. Skunk, no. You know, like boom, 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 boom. And I could not identify what I was looking at. It sort of reminded me of like the homunculus from Sinbad. You know, that kind of that grayish face and stuff. Okay.
Wow.
And as I'm staring at it, then, you know, I'm like, what the hell? I think I said out loud, what the hell is that? And then when I said this, it sprang up into the air. And it was about maybe 20, 25 feet from my headlights. And as it jumps up, it has wings now. They come out like this. And it had two sets of wings. They were oval-shaped, long, like dragonfly wings.
Oh.
Not bird wings, not bat wings.
Yeah.
Right? These were clear wings. They were matched set. They were like elongated ovals, like that. It wasn't like a dragonfly where they're tapered and the one set is a little larger than the other. They were the same size and they were oval shaped. Okay, and the wings are vibrating like this, like to hold it in position.
Oh,
and it's in my headlights, eye level. Okay, like looking right at us. And if I'd had a dash cam, which I'd been meaning to get at that point, I would have been world famous overnight.
Yeah.
Because this thing was right there, dead center. I mean, just there, you know? And it looked different, though, in the air. Like the wings, if my headlights were on, I don't know if I would have seen it, especially the wings, because they were like clear, but the edges were glowing, like that kind of shimmering, like that, you know? Like lit up almost, like or something. And the body was like more whitish or silvery at this point. It looked almost like had an ethereal quality to it. You know, my daughter, I didn't stare at the face. You know, I was like frozen, and I was looking at the wings. I'm like looking back and forth. They had a wingspan of like 3 or 4 feet. It wasn't a small thing.
Wow.
You know, it wasn't a little tiny. Anybody who says fairies are these little whatever, okay? But and my daughter said she thought it had like its hair like piled up on top here, sort of cone shaped or something. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
You know, when I saw it on the ground, it looked very animalistic and very unfriendly. Okay, not something you want to grab because you would bite your thumb off or something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
But and at this, I was like, "What the hell is that?" And then Ava went, "It's a fairy, Daddy. It's a fairy," and she's like pointing at it like that. And when she did that, it noticed her. It was like this, and then it just went whoosh over the roof of my truck and just took off like gangbusters.
Whoa.
And it was a very powerful flyer. I mean, this thing could hold. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm not going to use the proper language in here, trying to avoid it. And so now, it was crazy to see this. And I drove the rest of the way to the house, which is only a few minutes from there, and parked without saying anything. And then I walked inside with her, and I was talking to myself at this point, you know. And the first thing I do is I walk into my office, and my wife's like, I'm like, and I walk in, I shut the door, and I'm looking up largest bat in North America, the big brown bat. I'm like, no, this, and there was nothing to explain this creature.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, nothing. You know, I have some personal theories about it. After having thought about it, I think that it was hurt. I think this thing was cruising around out there, and maybe it hit a power line or something like that, or collided with something, and it had crash landed into the street. And it's lying there hurt, and all of a sudden it's got 5,000 pounds of SUV and with headlights coming down at it,
yeah.
You know? And it kind of gathered itself and then jumped up in the air and all. I also think that it was able to camouflage itself because it was the color of asphalt when I first saw it. But when it was jumped up, it didn't look like that at all. I don't know if it was trying to look transparent at this point, or if its natural color is more angelic, for want of a word, or whatever. But, if this is what fairies look like, they're not attractive creatures, okay, and they're bigger than people think. Because this thing had to be about a foot tall or something like that, or more, and had a wingspan that was, it was out there.
Yeah.
And
what would you describe the body to be like? Was it 4-legged, 2-legged?
I think it was bipedal. I saw arms and shoulders when it was pushing itself up, But when it was in the air, it was like the body was more like a silhouette. You know, you could see like the head and like the shoulders and stuff like that. The wings were much bigger than the body, which actually makes sense if you think about it in terms of anatomy. Like if you look at an eagle or a seagull or something like that, their body is a fraction of the size of their wingspan.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so
were there feathers or anything like that?
No, its wings were like an insect's.
Yeah.
They were membranous and clear.
And what about the body?
Well, the body that I saw on the ground, it had like, I'm going to say leathery gray skin, but like I said, I don't know if this thing can change color and stuff. And it seemed to have some sort of scraggly stuff back behind the head. You know, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, so it wasn't an insect. At least it didn't appear to be an insect. It didn't have like, you know, like a exoskeleton, like segmented or anything like that. It looks sort of like like an alien.
Ah, really? More of a mammal than an insect, then.
Or something different.
Yeah.
But it had insect wings.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The wings were like that of an insect. They were like, but they were different. They were ovals, like I said. I drew it. It's in the book and everything. But and it was just very.
Your daughter definitely was calling it a fairy for some reason. So she's seen that kind of a figure in her.
Yes.
Her
well, she saw
tale.
the wings and the glowing, like the shimmer to it and all that stuff, and that's what she said. And then my agent at the time, she was based on the description. She was calling it a brownie, and she said that it was these are like larger fairies. They live in the woods, and they live high up in trees, and they nest with squirrels and things like that.
Yeah.
And birds. And she said they eat like berries and blah blah blah, all this stuff. I'm like, how do you know? You know, and apparently this is like a hobby of hers. She's into these things. So
yeah, no, I've heard of those as well.
So what happened is then there's a funny side to the story. Is like we waited until it warmed up, and it was like May or something like that, and then we came up with this harebrained scheme or something that we were going to offer the fairies some food. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
So what we did was, I think it was like a Sunday or something like that, is we went into the woods near the house, and we hiked in, a couple 100 feet, not far. It wasn't, maybe 100, 200 yards at most. And we found there was a tree that somebody had sawed. I don't know why it was the only one sawed in that area that was perfectly flat, And we brought a heavy bowl with us, like a plastic bowl. It was filled with large blueberries. The ones you get from Costco, the good stuff.
Yeah.
Plug in Costco now. But anyway, just kidding.
Right.
So I had these blueberries in there because, my agent said they like berries. And we went and we sat them on the this tree stump there. And we sat on a log there and we tried to talk to them and, explaining that they wanted to communicate. We meant no harm and all this stuff and all. I was armed. I'll be honest, I don't take chances when it comes to my little girl. And, you never know in the woods if you encounter a two-legged creature that's not friendly. And I don't mean Bigfoot, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But, so nothing happened. We weren't visited, nothing, or anything like that. And then we left. So the next day she had school and she asked me to go into the woods and, check if the berries had been eaten or anything. So, so I walk back there and I find the bowl in the exact same spot. And it's been picked clean. There's nothing. There's no berry juice. There's no skins. There's no nothing. It's immaculate.
Oh, my.
And the bowl was not moved. Now, this wasn't a lightweight bowl, but it wasn't a super heavy bowl. If a deer had shoved his face in there and eaten those berries, he would have moved it and he would have made a mess.
Yeah.
If a squirrel had come in there and chewed them, there would have been scraps, juice, something like that. But it was nothing. It was like something, boom. So then I was on at a different show when I first was discussing this, and the hostess, I said to her, but it was probably like teenagers walking through and they saw the berries and they just ate them. And she goes, right, because if you were walking through the woods and you saw a bowl of blueberries sitting there, you would just pick them up and eat them, right? And then I went, Yeah, you're right. And then I had this vision of that scene from one of the Shrek movies where Shrek's like, Donkey, there's a bowl of fresh waffles in the middle of the woods. Don't you find that a little bit suspicious?
Yeah.
No, And so I don't know what happened. It could be a simple explanation. I have no idea. But, we never saw it again.
Wow.
Thank God.
Oh, I'll bet your daughter was excited to hear the news about these things disappearing there.
Yeah. I actually have a camera trap set up now in the woods near the house, and I set up a food tray that I can put some stuff out there. I'm going to need to do that. I want to try and get one of these critters on video, because believe me, if I can pull this off,
yeah,
I'm telling you, people are going to be like, what? He's not insane after all, that crazy author.
No, I tell you what, you've got quite a wide range of paranormal activity just in your first-hand experience here, let alone having your daughter. Does your daughter remember this sighting of this brownie or whatever, or did she kind of forget about it as she grew up?
She's forgotten a lot of it, but she does remember that it was snowing and the wind was blowing like that, and she remembers seeing this thing in the air. So.
Oh my!
And it came at a good time because she was starting to have doubts about Santa Claus.
Oh
and
yeah.
that bought me some time, because I was like, well, if fairies are real, obviously Santa's real then too, right?
Oh man!
Right. See, so.
Oh man, that is quite amazing. But I have never seen. I mean, I've seen the Point Pleasant monster, those kinds of things. But what you're describing is not a like a bat-winged creature at all. I've never. It's almost like a giant.
Like a megalorna dragonfly from the Triassic.
Yeah,
except
yeah.
That this thing, but it didn't. It had a face like a humanoid face, and this stuff.
Yeah.
And no insect could survive in that temperature.
Yeah.
This thing had to be either very resilient or warm-blooded, or I don't know what.
You don't think it was feeding on roadkill on the highway or anything, was it?
No, there was nothing there when after it jumped up.
Okay.
I think it was hurt. I
Yeah.
really do. I think it crash landed. There was no other reason for it to be there, and it was just like bad timing on its part or great timing on our part. But I'll tell you, it really shook me up, because it's like, I don't know if you ever watched those Twilight movies, but the one where the girl finds out her friend is a werewolf.
Yeah.
And now she's like emailing her missing friend Alice, and she's like, "Is it all true? Werewolves are bears? Are all the legends true?" I was scratching my head at this point. I'm like, like what the heck? I just saw freaking a fairy.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
anyway, fascinating
that's
stuff.
what happened.
And
I'm like a magnet for this stuff.
You are. And it sounds.
You.
And the way you describe it is just amazing. So no wonder you're such a great writer in explaining, to the audience, what you're trying to get across. I love the way you tell the story as well.
I'm going to tell you something that I've never told anybody. I have. All right, so I have these two big, beautiful cats that live with me, obviously, with us. Okay.
Yeah.
And this one's asleep right here, and I would show you him, but I don't want to bother him because he's being good, and his brother's out there destroying the house. But so we appear to have a ghost cat.
Oh,
in the house.
I have a good friend of mine who has a deceased cat that she swears still comes to visit her. Yeah.
Well, I haven't had cats before these two knuckleheads, since I was a kid. All right, but there are a lot of feral cats that live in the woods out back and stuff, and I'm sure some of them have died, from either being attacked by that bobcat or hunger or cold or I don't know what. Sometimes you'll see them on the security cameras, these feral cats.
Yeah.
One of them's big and black, but so like maybe starting 3 or 4 weeks ago, I'm sitting at my desk. It's this desk where I am right now, writing, and sometimes Olaf or Mace will go under my desk and will rub against my leg, like my calf, as he's under there. Like, cats do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this has happened to me multiple times, but there's no cat.
Oh, my.
Okay. I'm not imagining it or anything like that. And I'm not losing my mind. What's left of it. I can't afford to lose anymore. And I've looked, and there's not a cat. Okay, and it happened one time. This one that really freaked me out a little bit, like 2 weeks ago. I'm sitting here. There's no cat in my office. There's no way it could have been either of them. They were up in my daughter's bedroom with the door closed, etc. And my door was closed. And I'm sitting here, and I feel this cat rubbing against me. And I don't react because I'm used to these two knuckleheads. And the crazy part is I can feel its fur rubbing along my leg as it rubs past me. And I'm wearing long pants. I understand, but I could feel the fur on my bare skin. And I'm like...
Oh.
And I look down, and there's nothing there. And I'm like, put my hand down there now. I'm like, God, if I get bitten by some invisible cat, I'm going to, have a heart attack and die. But, I was like, good kitty, good kitty. And I just, I think that it's some poor cat that passed away, and it feels comfortable, because we have these two, and, it's hanging out in the house. And that's fine.
That is fascinating. I mean, you know what's fascinating when you tell that story is the fact that you felt the fur of the cat on your leg, even though you had long pants. Now, that is interesting.
It was a little freaky.
Yeah.
Okay. But having seen the stuff I've seen, I'm not afraid of ghosts. I've had quite a few of those experiences. But, yeah, it was, like, crazy, though. You could feel, like, the fur, the body of the cat just rubbing along your calf. Like as it was going by, like pressing against you. And I pushed back, I looked right down, and there's nothing there, And I mean, it was even, people could think I'm a nut, but, some of our cats like to play with the blinds. They paw at them, stuff like that. And in the living room, I was in the great room the other day, and I could hear one of them playing with the blinds and stuff like that. And I look, and these two are like right there on the couch asleep.
Oh, wow.
So what's doing that?
Oh, wow.
Like, hello?
Yeah.
I mean, so, listen, the cat is welcome, it's not causing any problems. It doesn't need a litter box,
Right.
I don't have to feed it. And I feel bad, honestly, if it's some poor cat that froze to death out there because it didn't have a home, now it does.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, do your cats themselves, I don't know if you've noticed this every once in a while. I used to have a cat. A cat would like totally stare at something in the corner of the room. And I know that they're seeing something, but I can't see it. Do your cats react to it?
Ava has seen Olaf play sparring with something that's not there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like stand up on his hind legs, and he's like, like how they do that stuff.
Yeah.
And everything, and there's nothing there.
Okay.
You've seen him do it. And Mace, I mean, the day after my dad's funeral, I know he was here because Mace, I was up on the landing by my daughter's bedroom upstairs, and there's stairs that come up this way, and then there's a curved flight from the foyer. And the stairs that come up this way, Mace was standing there next to me, and he was staring at something, on the stairs. And then he started backing up, and as he backed up, he started looking up. He was staring at something like this as he was retreating, and he, his eyes looked at something that was like human size when it got to the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
And he went and he backed away from it.
Oh.
And he was staring at something that was frightening him or scaring him.
Yeah.
And he didn't like it. And I knew what it was. It was the day after my dad's funeral. There was no doubt about it. I addressed him. So, my cat can see things that we can't.
Oh, yeah, I believe that for sure.
Isn't it what you big mushy? He's not used to being awake at almost 2 o'clock in the morning, my time.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah, he's going, what's going on around here? Oh, that's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, he's a great cat. Sleeps in my daughter's bed normally every night. Bodyguards her.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's really neat. What now? You also said that you had did you ever explain to me your UFO sighting? Was that something that we've talked about?
We talked about it when with Peter. Gosh, I think the first time I was on the show.
Ah.
And all, but I can recap it if you want. It's up to you.
Yeah, was that as dramatic as? In other words, obviously it stuck with you your entire life. You still remember this in full detail?
I mean, what happened was, it wasn't like dramatic, well, like Joe's encounter or anything like that, but it was definitely not one of our planes, what I saw. And this is a long time ago. This was back in 1989, I guess. Late summer of 1989.
Oh, really?
And I was 24, and I was visiting my siblings at the old house in Southwest Philly. And it was, a lot of people had gone to like a funeral for like a friend of theirs who had died. And I was outside, mulling things over, whatever. It was late. And I was looking up at the sky, and you could see like all the planes. There's Philadelphia Airport is not far from there, so you'll see like all the jets, their navigation lights. It was pitch black out, no clouds. I don't think it was any moon even, but I don't recall it at least. But and so I was looking, and then all of a sudden I see this bright white light, like it's like the North Star bright, okay, like really bright, and it wasn't blinking like the planes, and it's just hauling, what, across the sky. Like, if the normal planes were flying, like, at this speed, like this, this thing was going shh, like that, at least 3 times the speed. And I checked, and in 1989, commercial jets still flew at over 500 miles an hour. This thing was way faster. So I thought that it was a jet fighter. So I was like, oh, cool. A fighter plane, because I had never seen one flying by or anything like that,
Yeah.
And so I'm watching it go across the sky, and it's like this, and all of a sudden it just goes the other way.
No.
Like a bullet ricocheting off something and just reversed it. There was no deceleration. There was no turn. It just kind of, did that and then went the other way. And I'm like, okay, that's impossible. If that had been like one of our craft, everybody in there would have been a pancake.
Yeah.
And it would have been destroyed.
Wait, did it go back in the same
direction?
Speed
it
in the same speed?
There was no change in speed.
Okay.
And this thing was doing at least 1,500 or 1,600 miles an hour, maybe more, maybe 2,000. I mean, I don't know, Mach something. But it just went like this, and then like that, and then it kind of went up, and then it was gone. And it was just like, and I'm like scratching my head, like, did I just see a UFO? And it wasn't like you could see anything, just a bright white light. It was way, I don't know how big it was or anything else like that.
Yeah.
But it just stayed with me because, even now we don't have technology that could do that.
No.
And this is 32 years ago.
This is technology that Commander Fravor has kind of reported on that Tic Tac UFO event, where it literally, there was one spot I remember in that report where Commander Fravor says that this Tic Tac is kind of bouncing back and forth across the surface of the ocean over this foamy water, and he said it looked like a ping pong ball bouncing at the bottom of a glass, back and forth, and like you said, so fast and not even slowing down. Yeah.
It's astonishing. And Peter when you had me tell this to him, he had said, well, normally I would have disbelieved you, and I'm like, but he goes, but I saw the same thing myself, and what he saw was like a month or two later after what I saw.
Whoa.
And he said that, when I was on your show the first time, he said how he saw what he thought was a satellite falling out of orbit, and then it was coming down, and then all of a sudden it just reversed.
Yeah.
The same thing. No deceleration, just a ching and right back. So the timing, if something a month or two later, seems pretty close,
That is interesting. Yeah, definitely. In 2 different parts of the country, obviously, wherever you were at the time.
I was in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia.
Okay.
That was Philly. But I don't remember where he said he was. But,
yeah.
It just seemed like a bit of a coincidence. But, he saw the same thing, so he knows I wasn't, imagining it or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah. Yeah.
As he brushes the cat.
That's fascinating. So the idea being is that, it's very unusual that a person like yourself would be in a position to just look up and see something like that. Because I would imagine that whole sighting only took less than a minute, probably less than that.
Yeah, I would say it was 30 or 40 seconds at most.
Yeah, and what are the odds? You know, you think about that. What are the odds of you sitting there and looking at the night sky and seeing something like that? Such a short duration sighting. And then when you add up the other things that are happening in your life, I mean, what are the odds you're sitting there fishing by yourself and you see a Sasquatch swim by? You know, I mean, my gosh.
Bad luck? I don't know. There is an encounter in Monsters and Marine Mysteries about something I saw in a cemetery when I was 19.
No.
And yeah, and it's in the book. And oh god, the cat is right in front of me, but you can't see him because the camera's high up. But if something big and hairy just appears on the screen, it is not me turning into a werewolf. Or
okay, no problem.
Or a dog man or whatever they call it. But
right.
Yeah, but we're getting near the top of the hour.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes, but
okay, but yeah, I mean, I got. Maybe we'll talk about this a little later.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, for your readers that are interested in things, especially marine cryptids and stuff like that, I definitely recommend the book. They can go on Amazon and do the Look Inside feature and stuff. But I was privileged to gather and interview so many people, gathered so much data. There's a lot of people out there that think the megalodon shark is still around. Okay? And I can tell you that I don't have evidence that the megalodon shark is around, but I collected evidence that, number one, I pretty much proved that great white sharks can exceed 25 feet in length. I've got, you know, whale carcasses that my friend personally measured bite radiuses on there in video. Okay? And one of these bites is like 39 inches high.
Wow.
That's an enormous bite.
Yeah.
I mean, that indicates, I used the most conservative formulas I could find, with the help of a paleontologist also, to go along with it, make sure. And the most conservative formulas I could find indicated a shark like around 26 feet long. Other formulas suggested it was in the 30s. Okay? But then I got to look at other stuff, like a marine biologist named Simon Pierce. Let me use pictures they took of a whale shark in the Galapagos. And this thing was attacked by what I call the Galapagos giant. And this whale shark was as big as a bus, 40 feet long. Legit 40-foot whale shark. Has a chunk taken out of its flank 4 feet across.
Oh.
Okay? And again, going by the most conservative formulas possible, that indicates there is a macro-predatory shark out there as big as that whale shark. So
yeah,
we have something out there. I mean, there was one photo I couldn't share because I don't know who sent it to me, and I couldn't get permission to use it. But I have a photo in my possession of a humpback whale with its flukes coming up out of the water, and it has one lobe of its flukes has been bitten by a shark, and you can see this bite is pretty fresh. There's like chunks of flesh still hanging in the notches from the teeth and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not an old injury or anything like that. And the bite covers pretty much the entire width of one of the lobes of the fluke.
Whoa.
Okay. Now, the only question is how big is this humpback? And if it's a calf, it's one thing. But if it's an adult, which normally has a 10 or 12 foot fluke span, you're talking a monster.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I mean, so there, I wouldn't call it megalodon because the odds are megalodon at very large sizes was very slow and adapted to eating more carcasses, and this was an active predatory attack, even though it failed. But something is out there is taking giant bites out of things. There's a photos in there of a pygmy blue whale that has an immense bite taken out of its peduncle. There's all sorts of stuff, and I crunched the numbers and everything to figure out how big all these giant sharks are that are attacking all these animals. So we've got something out there that's a lot bigger than a great white.
Oh, man. Mm-hmm. And you wonder whether our military with sonar and those kinds of things are picking some of that stuff up and not even telling us about it,
Well, I think that a sonar hit on a shark that size would probably be dismissed as a whale.
Yeah.
A lot of times. But it's different if you look out a porthole and you see it looking at you or something like that. It's a different story. But I've collected evidence of so much stuff in there, and people could say what they want, but I mean the photos and everything else don't lie.
Yeah,
it's like I would not want to go swimming in some of these areas, unarmed and without a big shark cage or something like that. So.
Oh man, well, no wonder it's your number one bestseller here at this point. I can't wait to read that. That'll be fun.
Thank you.
Well, listen, we got to take a break right now again at the top of the hour here, and we will be back with more Spaced Out Sunday after this.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little different. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Are you an experiencer or something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I can find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and we have some cool swag for you to pick up. All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit. Bumble, we're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby. And tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at thejohns.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. And follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune into SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is watching.
Hi, this is Amber Beckford, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend. Woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Sunday. I'm your host, Michael W. Hall. Thanks for being with us. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, WQE 99.1 in Noonan, Georgia, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, Louisiana. On the digital side, we are on also Revolution Radio. Don't forget, you can always check our archives for free at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Just do us all a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot and shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store and catching up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and so much more. And we are back now with Max Hawthorne, the Prince of Paleo-Fiction. I love that title. And boy, we have talked about the gamut tonight here. And where did we leave off? There was something that you were going to carry over to the second hour, to the last hour, that was going to be important.
Yeah.
Oh, that's something. You've never talked about this before, so it's up to you. I don't want to push you here on this one, but boy, I tell you what, if it's anything to be on par of what we've been talking about, it's got to be good.
It's one of those things where people are going to accuse you of either being full of it or out of your mind. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there'd be a little truth to both of those, but in this instance, it is.
Yeah. Well, I've been in. You're in good company if that's where you're going, because literally, to be the paranormal lawyer in the field that I'm in is just ridiculous. You know, it's kind of fun to be able to see some of my colleagues' reactions to some of the stuff I do.
Yeah. We got an hour, so maybe I'll beat around the bush and hit on something else first.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, warm up if you want.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Well, you say you are working on something new right now, right? Some new book or novel, or what are you working on now?
Well, if Monsters and Marine Mysteries was a research book, it's not my usual forte, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, and everybody seems to think it's, great if you see the reviews and comments on social media and stuff like that. So it was a fun distraction, and I met some incredible people. When you're a novelist, you research stuff anyway, which is how I got into this whole thing. But so the right now I'm finishing up the novelization of a screenplay I wrote like 4 years ago. It's a horror thriller that is going to be done shortly, and then I'll be jumping into the next Kronos Rising book, which I have mapped out for ages, that obviously people want as well. So I'm kind of, doing a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What is your writing routine like? Is it something that you try to keep on a regular basis, or is it sporadic for you?
I try to write Monday through Friday, regular work week type thing. I drag my sorry bones out of bed in the morning, aches and pains, open my eyes, curse God for me still being alive. Just kidding. Drag my daughter out of bed, get her ready for school, pack her lunch, drive her to school, come home, and then, try and have some caffeine and get started. But I usually write, I would say, about 3 hours a day, including editing, maybe 4 at most. I don't, it's not a big day, but it's a lot of brain power involved. The editing is probably 2/3 of that time.
Okay, and it's in the morning then, usually your routine?
Morning or late morning, lunch in the early afternoon, something like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll, go to the gym and bring a few pages and edit them while I'm on the recumbent bike or stationary bike or something like that.
I do the same thing on a recumbent bike. I thumb on my iPhone. That's how I write, actually. And I've created novels on the recumbent bike, literally.
It's funny because people see you. I get my clipboard and my pages and I'm stuff, and they're like, "What is he doing? Who is this guy?"
Yeah. Is he trying to take notes of what's going on or something? But as long as you got a clipboard and you can edit that way. But then again, you got to go back and you got to change it on your hard copy. I mean, on your digital copy, right? Later on.
Oh yeah, that's standard. Transposing and stuff. I always do that. One of the first bits of advice I'll give to any writer or aspiring writer is you want to make sure writing on the screen. You always miss stuff that you'll see in a hard copy, and that's whether it's flow or redundancies or whatever, plot errors or continuity issues or whatever it might be, or just better verbiage you want to use. You really need to do a hard copy edit and then transfer that in and then do a final read through, etc.
Yeah.
But I like to create universes. That's why the Kronos Rising books have been popular. They're not just action and sci-fi thrillers. There's visual descriptiveness, there's a story, there's emotions involved. People are very passionate about the books, and your viewers are welcome to go on to my website. They can go to maxhawthorne.com or kronosrising.com. There are free excerpts to download from different books and things like that. But my readers are very passionate about the novels. Back in let me think, when did Kraken Volume 2 come out? I think that was in 2019 or 2018. But one of my books came out, and a major character that everybody was very fond of, died.
Oh no!
In very dramatic fashion. We're talking Game of Thrones type, caliber, death scene, etc. And people were flipping out. And I saw these guys talking about it just a few months ago. And then one guy was like, I don't want to say the character's name because people are going to buy the books. I don't want to spoil anything. We're like, you mean like when so-and-so died? And then one guy goes, yeah, he goes, I had tears in my eyes. And then the other guy goes, me too. He goes, I was so upset. I threw the book across the room and couldn't look at it for 3 months. And I'm like, I got grown men telling me that they're crying about the characters.
Wow.
The character dying. I must be doing something right, you know?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That's, men don't usually admit these things on social media and stuff,
Yeah.
So that's quite an honor. You know?
Oh, that is fascinating, and it's almost as if that it creates a life of its own that you now have to keep up with, you know, in your continued treatment of those characters.
Oh, it's an ongoing thing because the series, the Kraken books were a trilogy. You know, Kronos Rising, Kraken 1, 2, and 3. They all connect because it was impossible to do it as a single volume. Each book is almost 600 pages long.
Wow.
So we were talking about an 1,800-page book. I mean, that's like the Bible or something, you know. So I had to break it up into, you know, like, and then people were upset because, you know, they had to wait 2 years for the next book.
Yeah.
You know, it was tough writing back then. I had, like, you know, neck and back injuries and, you know, a lot of painkillers and stuff, and it was really slowing my roll. So now I'm back.
Oh, good for you. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know how many novelists I have read in the historical past that literally were in bad health when they were writing some of their best stuff. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, for me, it's a problem because when I was writing Kraken 1, I wrote like the first 90 pages, and then I just physically was not able to write. You know, I was doing physical therapy and spinal operations and all this stuff. It was just bad, and you could see like the writing had deteriorated for a while because, you know, you were taking like gobs of painkillers and all this other stuff, and then it dopes you up.
Yeah.
It hampers your writing style, your creativity, your imagination, and it's like, you know, I've shed myself of all those problems. And now it's just a matter of just getting enough sleep and putting the time aside. You know, I have so much going on. I've got like paleontology research going on for stuff. I've got like Max Hawthorne, own a fossil, a huge fossil, that proves that mosasaurs, you know, mosasaurs like from Jurassic World, you must have seen that giant swimming critter. You know, it's like a crocodile. So, you know, people say they only got to be at most like 50 feet long. I have proof positive that at least one species of mosasaur grew to at least 85 or 86 feet in length.
Oh,
Imagine that?
Yeah.
And so, you know, getting a formal, you know, scientific paper done on this thing, etc., and it's all going to come out. I've been dabbling in paleontology. I mean, I actually we had a formal paper in 2019, me and two paleontologists, on my theory going to how plesiosaur swam, you know, the Loch Ness Monster Nessie thing with the 4 flippers and stuff. So I arguably solved the mystery of plesiosaur locomotion in terms of how the flippers, you know, were used.
Oh.
All these people had different theories about it. You know, there's some of these UK guys that were saying, oh, they only used the front flippers to swim and the back flippers were used for steering, which is patently ridiculous. Why would you have 4 matching flippers that are pretty much all the same size, powerful muscular design for speed, stamina, strength, etc., and 2 sets are going to be directing traffic while the other 2 are doing all the work?
Yeah.
You know? And then these other guys said, oh, the rear flippers did all the work and the front flippers were for steering.
Yeah.
You know? Neither of them made sense. I mean, if you've seen a battleship, the rudders are tiny compared to this ship. You don't need giant rudders. You know what I mean?
You're
These
right.
are all used for propulsion and stuff. And, you know, it's like people couldn't figure out how they would do that. Because there was this thing, like, have you ever done sculling?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so you probably know that one of the things they teach you is when you're sculling, multiple oars going through the same water don't generate a huge difference in speed because they're pushing the same water.
Yeah.
And the water's already moving.
Yeah.
See? So if you look at it like the world records, for example, the increase in speed is only, I think, like 12% for like 2 rowers versus 1 and things like that.
Got it.
Okay?
Got it.
You don't get these dramatic speed increases. So why would these plesiosaurs have 4 flippers if they're using them at the same time? You know, how is that beneficial to the animal? See?
Yeah.
And what nobody realized with these people is that the flippers weren't moving through the same planes of motion. See?
Okay.
If you look at the skeleton, you'll see how the shoulder girdles and the pelvic girdles were different. The front ones were angled up, the back ones were angled in the reverse direction. And then the rear ones, the kicker was there's this thing called adaptive rib shortening. And that what that means is nature doesn't want bones getting in the way. Okay, if you had to move your arm a certain way, your bones aren't going to get in the way, so they devolve and change to let you move in a certain range of motion.
Yeah.
So this animal's ribs in the back, the ribs were so small, almost non-existent, with this huge arch above the rear paddles, and it became obvious to me what was happening. I solved it in the bathtub. Sitting there, splashing around my fingers and my hands and figuring it out. Stuff is that the front flippers move like a sea turtles or penguins.
Okay.
Those kind of semi-vertical movements. But the back flippers were able to push back like this. See?
Yeah.
So when you push through different planes of motion like that, the animal goes much faster.
Yeah.
They're talking like a 50-60% increase in speed at least. So.
Wow.
Anyway. I'm digressing here, but so I get into all this stuff with my research. I'm doing all these different things at the same time, including fossil discoveries and paleontology papers and novels and cryptid books and and wrestling giant cats.
That keeps you busy. I often wondered about this. Remember when, what was her name? Donald Trump's attorney Sidney Powell came out with the I have released the Kraken. Remember when that happened? You were in the middle of writing or releasing one of your books at that point. Did that make a difference for you in any kind of...
They actually reached out to me. The Washington Post interviewed me for it.
Really?
Believe it or not. Yeah, I think it was in December. There was a piece that they put out. You can Google it. Max Hawthorne and Washington Post will come up. I think it was called "A Kraken is Loose in America." Yeah, and they interviewed me about it. They I don't know how they found me, but and they wanted to discuss this whole thing and this whole. I wanted a written interview, and I knew there was going to be a trap in there. Okay, see, I don't delve into politics.
Yeah.
I'm a novelist. My readers are. It doesn't matter what your politics are. Readers are readers, okay? And I knew there was going to be a trap in there. They were going to try and suck me into this politics, this political thing, and I wasn't falling for it. So I just, skipped those questions altogether. I answered the ones that I would answer. So they took a quote from me about the Kraken and why it instills this primal, primitive fear in people and things of that nature. But yeah, so I don't know if it helped my book sales or not, to be honest. I mean, Kraken 3 is, a great novel, and everybody loves it because it really finished that series with a bang. But, they were knocking on my door.
Yeah, I thought the synchronicity of that was fascinating at the time when I heard that when she came out. And because, as you well know, the Seattle Kraken is an NHL, franchise as well, and that kind of came out of the blue. You often wonder how they name these sports teams, but the Kraken was really cool. People really enjoy that around here in the Seattle area.
Well, I'm sure I had nothing to do with it, but can you imagine there's a bunch of closet Max Hawthorne fans out there, and they're like, "Oh, let's use this for this team, and let's do this and this." And I mean, there have been instances where I've seen things happen in films and stuff where I look and I'm like, like for example, there's a TV show called Resident Alien, and there's a kid in the series, and his name is Max Hawthorne.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and my fans were talking about it. I'm like, that's. I guess I have one of the writers there must be a fan of the Kronos Rising series or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there was one of these movies that came out, Pacific Rim Uprising. With the giant kaiju were fighting the guys in the giant robots and stuff. And the lead characters' names are Jake and Amara, just like my lead characters. And I was like, what are the odds?
Oh, yeah.
So strange.
That is interesting. It's almost as if maybe you're being not picked upon, but picked up and used, kind of like almost being groomed for something, down the road. You never know.
Maybe, or maybe people know that one of my books has become a movie eventually, and they want to use those names thinking that's going to hurt things, or maybe oh, he copied those names from that movie. No.
Yeah.
No, it's the other way around. All right.
Yeah.
I'll maybe do my Triple H routine here on the air.
Well, at one point, I would imagine you're going to have someone talk to you about making the film version of your stories. That would be a lot of fun, wouldn't it?
Oh, definitely, and it's a welcome thing. You know, I've learned how to write screenplays from a master, so it happens to be a talent that I'm lucky enough to possess. So.
Well, then you have to definitely negotiate the idea of you writing the screenplay, of course, you know, from your own novel, because that's not an automatic thing, as you well know, you know.
Well, the screenplay for several of them is already done. So,
yeah.
And I had to, like, branch off or delve into, like, different areas, because the problem when you're, you know, taking a 193,000 word book and trying to condense it into 2 hours, you know, you have to trim the fat while still telling a good story. And how do you balance all that? So
yeah.
I had to change some things, you know, using some characters, move some things around for effect, but yeah, it turned out to be a great script. So we'll see what they think of it.
Well, when you create your own script, you know, screenplay, are you using storyboards, 3x5 cards? How do you actually break down a story into a screenplay form? Because I know it's a lot different than writing a novel.
Well, I write a novel. There's a formula for how you write screenplays and timing in terms of what has to happen at certain key points in the script and things like that. The 3x5 card thing works. I've done it. In fact, I might have filed those away. I had a whole ton of them in one of these desk drawers here. But it's good because you can move stuff around a little bit and stuff. But I usually just try and time it out. I'll take a Word document and I'll try to break down what I'm going to use and do and here and there. And it's just a matter of trying to get it all together. It's an organizational thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's a beat that they have to have in order. And the funny part is it's not that different from a novel. You know, if you adapt the screenplay formula to books, you can tell a good story.
Yeah.
See, the thing is that screenplays are a little more limited because you're showing instead of telling. See, but the real master authors, they show instead of tell in their books as well.
Of course.
Or we try to, you know.
Now you said you were taught from one of the master screenwriters how to do this. Do you want to talk about who your mentor was or is?
Well, sure. I mean, I guess it would be a mentor would be a good description. His name is Chris Parker, and he lives out in California, and he writes for Disney and everybody else. He wrote, he's done A Vampire in Brooklyn. Remember that old Eddie Murphy movie?
Yeah.
He did Heaven is for Real. He wrote the screenplay for that, which was a big hit. You know, he does a lot of stuff. He's top drawer.
Wow.
Great guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, we became friends. We were introduced by a friend of mine who was a college buddy of his and who played in the NFL and stuff. And he introduced me to him, many years ago, back when I was like around 2004 or 2005, something like that, when I was first writing Kronos Rising. It was a long time ago. And I remember we sat down and I had like a headset like this and a clipboard to take notes and stuff. We were on the phone for hours because he had read like part of the screenplay and all that. And he's like, "Now," he goes, "your prologue where you talk about the caldera and the whole Cretaceous scenes and all this stuff like that," he goes, that can't happen. That's got to go." I'm like, "What?" It's like, you're traumatized. He goes, "I know. It feels like you're killing your child." He goes, "But you can't do it because you're giving away the store. People now know what this monster is, where it came from, what it looks like, everything. You can't do it." Okay? And I'm like, but my fishbowl theory and stuff, and you know, all this. And so he goes, "Every good horror story opens with death." Think about it. Let's look at Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Okay? Opening scene, dark, rain, storms. They got this dinosaur in a box that you don't know what it is, and it kills someone. Opening card.
Yeah.
He goes, "So that's what you want to do." Because if I was writing a screenplay, I'd open up with this. And I was like, you know, and I was like sucking up knowledge like a Hoover Deluxe.
Yeah.
You know? But, you know, and it's just a matter of there's learning the final draft software and everything else that goes with it.
you know.
Yeah.
And you know, he's been a privilege and a good friend and a privilege to know. And you know, really, I mean, you could do far worse. Let me tell you.
Oh, that's fascinating, especially when you. Is he a similar age to yourself, or is he older or younger? Or?
He's close to my age. I think. Let me think about this. I'm about the same age.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that remarkable when you find someone who can really relate? You can really relate to that will take the time to do that for you. You know, you can't buy that. You know.
No, you can't. And I you know. It's funny, too, because he's such a laid-back guy. I mean, you know, now he's married and he has children and all that, but when I first knew him, I think he was still single then. And whenever I spoke to him on the phone, I was like, dude, did you just smoke a joint or something? Because he'd always be like, yo, man, like this and everything. And then he's like, no, this is just the way I am. And I'm like, but then, you know, you live on the beach, I guess that makes sense, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Isn't that fascinating when people... you run across people like that who are laid back in life, super intelligent, and they do something very, very good, very well, and they don't seem to have to hustle for it, you know? It just comes to them.
Mm-hmm. You know, and after the book was done, then I got a little bit of help from another person you would never expect. And this is a guy named David Goodman, who used to be the executive producer for the Family Guy TV show.
Oh.
Remember the Family Guy?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
My son does all the Family Live voices. He's a voiceover kid, you know? Yeah.
So Dave, I was introduced to him by the same friend, and he was like reading through the book, and he tore me a new one.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God, the abuse. Like, I thought, like, you know, I've got this book down now, it's ready, you know, and he sent me these huge emails. I mean, they were like 1,000-word emails.
Oh,
you know,
no.
Like this, and I was like, ouch. I was reading it. By the time I was done, I was like, oh, no more. I can't take anymore. You know, but, you know, I took the advice to heart, and I learned from it, and I rehashed it. I must have rewritten or polished Kronos Rising like 3 or 4 times, which is hard to do when you're talking about, like I said, 193,000 words. You know,
wow.
That's like a lot there. And I'll tell you something else, though. I did get to use the Cretaceous scenes that were originally in the prologue.
Yeah.
See, you know, I was so set on having them that I worked out a masterful way to incorporate them into the book. Because there's a scene in that book where Jake and Amar are discussing, he's coming to terms, like she's finally convinced him that this thing is real. They found its tooth embedded in a boat where it killed people. They've got a fragment of its skin. They've even got a shadowy photo of it, a film of it underwater. Okay, so she's convinced him and all, and he's like, but how did this thing come to be? How is it still alive after all this time? And she's like, you know, I've got a theory about that. And then her theory led me to, boom, I went right into the Cretaceous flashback stuff, and I broke it up, pasted it as part of the chapters and stuff. So this way it's like a story within a story.
Yeah.
You know, and people love the dinosaur scenes in the prehistoric times stuff, because you're really getting into this the ecosystem and how it was. And then I got to describe the meteor, the asteroid impact. We're talking, you know, doomsday hell on Earth.
Oh, man.
Everything. And I'm it's bragging, but I did a masterful rendition of it.
Cool. Yeah.
Highly recommended. And you had to learn so much. Speed of asteroids, trajectory, angle of impact, how big was the crater, what was the asteroid made out of, how much did it weigh? You know, you got to get all this stuff down. Because if you don't, you're going to go to a book signing and some nerd is going to be all over you like a cheap suit.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, there are. You definitely find out who those experts are out there when you put it on paper, you know, for everyone to read, and you propose.
Well, on social media.
Oh, social media's got to be worse, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you know, there's always somebody out there that thinks they're the expert or wants to criticize. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, nobody's perfect. You know, me more than anybody. You know, all you can do is the best you can. So.
Well, yeah, but it sounds like your research has stood up very well. You know, and the fact that you've got the paleological background and And even the astronomy that you'd have to learn to be able to get all this stuff down sounds like it's just a fascinating way you've pulled it all together. So congratulations.
My brain is mush sometimes. I'm serious. Like, anything that you write about, you have to learn. So when I was writing about submarines, I had to learn about submarines. I had to learn about sonar. I had to read novels from other people who'd written submarine books to learn the lingo and everything and how it worked, and talk to some military people and stuff who've been in the Navy and everything and anything. You know, I have a scene in Kraken 1 or 2, I forget which one it is, where there's a guy that's driving around and he lives in his tractor trailer, one of those big ones with a built-in little, bed and stuff like that. I had to learn about tractor trailers and how they work and everything. It's like, like your brain, but anyway. So you really want me to talk about this thing that I don't want to talk about? I am.
Oh, I maybe you're warmed up enough. Let's give it a shot here.
The problem is that people are going to say I'm either insane or I imagined it or I'm full of.
Yeah. I understand.
People have tried to get me to talk about this before. It's in the book. It's in Monsters and Marine Mysteries in full detail.
Okay.
What do we got? 25 minutes left here?
Yeah, 25 minutes or whatever, but give it a shot if you want. Your only solace at this point is that there's only a few of us up at this hour. Maybe, the people out there that are going to give you a hard time have already gone to bed.
Well, this is recorded, isn't it? This means people can go onto your thing and read it anyway?
Oh, yeah, they'll see it later. Yeah, that's right.
All right. Okay. I know I'm going to regret this, but whatever. So, back when I was 19, living in sensible Southwest Philly, I was like a lean martial arts type kid back then, okay? And I had developed this bad habit. We lived near Fairmount Park. It's near the outskirts of Philadelphia, right near Yaden. And so I had developed this weird habit. I don't know if I watched, too many creature double feature movies or what, but I wasn't afraid of anything. And so we had a Doberman at the time. And I used to take the Doberman for late night walks in the summertime. And when it was like a full moon out, and in retrospect, I don't think I did it because of the light, the brightness, which did help us to see, because I didn't need a flashlight. I just thought it was extra creepy and brave of me and stuff. But so I used to take the dog and we'd go down at the edge of Fairmount Park and we'd walk along this stretch, and then we'd go into the woods, and we'd go a mile or two into the woods with this forest trail, and then we'd come up around this huge hill that went up like this. So it was like a 45-degree angle. I'm not even kidding.
Wow.
Maybe more. And it abutted an old cemetery. And it's all in the book, but and we would climb up this hill and climb up into the cemetery. Okay, now I'm in a cemetery, and we always did this at midnight.
Oh,
okay, man. Because we were really asking for trouble.
Yeah, just you and the Doberman.
Me and the Doberman. Yeah, his name was Caesar, and I used to bring a nightstick with me, like a baton.
Yeah.
Police thing, because there were packs of feral dogs in the park sometimes, and they'd attack people. And the Doberman could take care of himself, but I didn't want to get chewed up, so I had a weapon.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'd climb up, and we'd end up in the cemetery, and we'd walk along this gravel road that was for cars and stuff, I guess, that traveled around the cemetery, and we'd go through, I don't know how far it was, a couple hundred yards, maybe more, and the ground would level off at that point into the woods, and we'd cut through the woods, and we'd end up in a little town called Yaden. And then we'd get out on the back on civilization sidewalk again, and then we'd walk, whatever it was, a mile or two through Yaden, back all the way to Southwest Philly and back to the house. Okay, that was our little shtick. Took like an hour or two, something like that.
Okay.
And so I stopped doing it after this happened, for obvious reasons. And so we're in the cemetery, and we're walking along, and I start hearing this noise, and it sounds like this, like,
Whoa.
Okay, and keeps repeating, and there's a delay. It's not like it's like you hear it, and then a little bit, and then it would hear it again.
Yeah.
And then you hear it again, and I'm like, what is that? And the dog is looking around. He can't see anything or identify anything. And we're on this path, and to my right are tombstones, and to my left is this hill that goes like this into the woods. Okay, and the hill is very difficult to climb up. Okay, so you wouldn't want to try to walk down it.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm hearing this noise, and as we're walking along, and I'm walking slower now because I don't know what I'm hearing, I realize it sounds like something digging. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And then the hairs on the back of my neck all stand up like this. And I start imagining stuff, and I'm like, okay, get a grip on yourself. You've been watching too many creature double feature movies. Man up, whatever. Okay? So I shrugged it off, and we start walking along and stuff, and the sound continues. As we start walking again, is and I can feel it now under my feet a little bit, and it really was reminiscent of something digging. And I'm like, now I stop, and I see this big, ugly old tombstone. Okay, and I said I don't want to do this. So we're standing there, and all of a sudden, something erupts out of the ground in front of the tombstone. It just bursts out of the ground.
Like in front,
Okay.
in front of the tombstone, meaning
Yeah,
in
like-
front of the written side of the tombstone.
Yeah, like 3 feet in front of the stone, something bursts out of the ground.
Whoa!
Okay? Like this.
No.
Okay, except like this.
Yeah.
Okay. And I saw it, and it was a hand. No joke.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, white people were laughing, and that's fine. Okay. And I saw it, and I literally out loud, I went, "Holy God!" like that when I saw it. Okay. And dirt had come up with it and stuff like that, and I stared at it, and my brain went into preservation mode. And I tried to convince myself that what I was looking at was not what I was looking at. And I was trying to convince myself that it was a rabbit or a groundhog or a crazy squirrel or Bugs Bunny, took that wrong turn at Albuquerque or something like that. Okay? I'm serious. And I'm staring at it, and I'm blinking and I'm blinking and blinking, and I'm waiting for it to turn into something other than what it is. And it comes up like this, okay? And then it just kind of was that and hung there for a second. I think it was tired, okay?
Whoa.
It was big. Half again as long as my hand. Fingers were about twice as thick. It was pale gray, and the skin was loose looking, it was I don't know, saggy, maybe, or something like that.
Oh, weird.
And the nails were very jagged, broken.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay, I guess from digging. And I'm staring at it, and it's not going away. It's a hand. Okay. And it's just there, and then it starts to move again. It starts like squirming and feeling around and stuff like that. And the dog was like frozen. He was not paralyzed.
Whoa.
And I just knew that if I stayed there, and the rest of it, and it had to be big. You understand?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big hand.
Yeah.
Okay. And I knew if I stayed there, lingered. Okay, I was going to die. There was nothing. This thing would have, snapped the dog's neck like he was a chicken, and my nightstick would have been like a twig.
Yeah.
Okay? Anything that can dig through soil like that has to be incredibly powerful. You've seen documentaries where they put somebody in Mythbusters in a coffin and started pouring dirt on it, and the coffin started collapsing and stuff, and he was crying and peeing his pants. Okay, so imagine something, how strong does something have to be to claw its way through soil?
Yeah.
Okay, so I my heart was going like this, and I literally turned and I looked at the hill, and I just said out loud, I like in that Clint Clyde movie, I just went, "Feet don't fail me now." I said it out loud, and I ran down the hill. Okay?
Whoa.
And the hill was like this, and it was covered with leaves, and there were boulders, and fallen trees and upright trees and all this and branches and stuff. And I was so terrified. Everything was moving in slow motion.
Yeah.
Which saved my life because I was able to jump over a log, duck under a branch, not run headfirst into a tree.
Yeah.
You understand? All this stuff. I was running so fast because I'm going downhill and terrified. The dog, he was on a choker, is choking behind me. You hear him going like trying to keep up. Okay?
Oh my.
I hit the forest floor and I ran for my life. I ran at least a mile until I collapsed, full speed. I was in mud, lying there. I gasped for air for a few seconds. I jumped back up. I looked back to see if it was coming, which I expected to see it, and thank God I didn't. And then I ran all the way home. And I ran into the house, hysterical. You know, I'm grabbing crosses. It's going to be funny, but sprinkling garlic powder on myself, garlic and stuff like this, you know, all this stuff. And my two brothers, you know, I don't have any names to them right now, whatever, Lenny and Squeaky again. I told them what happened. And my one brother, who eventually became a cop, you know, and stuff, he's like, you're full of, I'm like, I'm telling you, you know, he goes, that's, he's like, we know the spot. We're going to go back with us right now, back to the spot, and we're going to prove to you that you imagined the whole thing or it was something other than, and I was like hugging my cross, and I was like, I'm not going back. I'm never going back there. You can't forget it.
Oh my.
And I told him, I said, you guys can go. I said, when you don't come back, I said, and you won't, I'll tell Mom what happened to you. And then they looked at each other, and then they didn't want to go.
Whoa.
Okay? But that's what happened. Okay? I've never told people this, except for a few people in private about it. It's in the book. All the details are in the book and stuff. But, you know, and people can say what they want. Okay? Somebody I spoke to said that this thing sounds like what they call a strigoi, which is some sort of like vampiric creature that lives, you know, in graves and digs its way up and feeds. Okay?
Oh my.
And, you know, I have wanted to go back to the cemetery with like heavily armed people,
yeah,
in broad daylight with like ground penetrating radar, you know, because
Yeah.
I know the stuff.
Yeah.
It's burning in my brain. I would never forget it.
Okay.
Daylight or not, or anything like that. You know, because I mean, this is 37 years ago. You know, if this thing's still there, maybe it moves from stone to stone or whatever. I would imagine a cemetery is a great place to get victims because there's plenty of places to put bodies, if you understand what I'm saying. You know?
Oh,
But,
my.
I mean, if that ground is like churned up and stuff like that, that alone would show you that something had been in there.
Of course.
You know?
Of course.
But I never went back. I joked with my wife, hey, you want to go? Like, no. Nobody wants to go, except one lunatic cryptid chick I know, and she's out of her mind. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go, yeah. You don't know what you're talking about, all right? Like, you know, it's like you know, but that's what happened. And so when you say, like, I've attracted all these things or I've had all these experiences and stuff, that was by far, I mean, like, I have been shot at in a nightclub in Manhattan.
Whoa.
All right, bullets whizzing past my head. Okay, I wasn't shot at. Somebody was shooting someone, and the bullets, I would just happen to be standing in there. Okay?
Yeah.
And it was terrifying. I still had the presence to pick up a friend of mine and throw her 20 feet to get her out of the line of fire. Okay? I found a kid in college, you know, my senior year, who had hung himself in the dorms 2 days earlier.
Oh,
I
no.
came face to face with him in the dark.
Oh.
Okay?
Man.
And it was horrible. Blood and this and all this. You know, and none of these things. I've done the bungee jump. Okay?
Whoa.
None of that holds a candle to this thing.
Yeah.
Okay? That is by far the most terrified I have ever been in my life. And, you know, just thinking about it, like, even now, okay? It's like, you know, I've never gone back, and I've never really wanted to go back or anything like that. And, you know, so.
Well,
and there have been murders in that cemetery, by the way.
Oh, murders in the cemetery. Oh, my.
Yeah, they recently they found, like, you know, some bodies in there and stuff. You know, it was blamed on some, like, warlocks gang or something like that. But they found somebody in there with, like, a noose around their neck or something else, and some other body or somebody, you know, and stuff. But
okay.
I don't know. I mean, the cemetery is not that old. It's been around from like the 1850s or something like that. But this thing looked pretty old. Okay, I didn't see the rest of it. I only saw the hand, and that was enough. So.
Oh man, and when you have later in life that cryptid fairy sighting with your daughter, I mean, you know, all this stuff's got to be adding up in your brain. You know, thinking, you know, this is another thing that just does not compute.
Yeah. Well, you know what? After seeing the first thing, the problem is that, like, remember I told you we had a mountain lion?
Yeah.
Around here. There are not supposed to be any mountain lions around where I live, in this part of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Okay? This thing walked through our yard into the woods in the back. That means it was in the development. Okay? And it was wintertime, there was an inch of snow, and I had 4-inch paw prints, okay, crossing through my yard.
Whoa.
Okay? And I didn't take pictures of them, which I should have. I didn't call, you know, Fish and Game or something. I was afraid they'd shoot and kill the cat, you know. But then again, it could have eaten a child. So maybe I should have. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, with all the deer, I mean, there are so many hundreds of deer around every night. I'm sure that's what it was looking for. But, you know, for me, I was like, so there's a mountain lion. Big deal. You know, most people finding a 200-pound cat walk through your yard would be freaking out. I've seen so much stuff that just didn't hold a candle.
Yeah.
You know?
I'll bet. Pretty tame when it comes down to it. But, oh, that's remarkable stuff. You know, this 2.5, 3 hours have just gone by so quick whenever we talk. I really appreciate, you know, you spending the time. I know it's really late where you are, just to kind of catch up on what's going on. And sounds like things are going along real smoothly for you. I really am excited for your career as it's taking off.
Except for the abuse I'm going to take for telling you what happened in the cemetery.
Yeah, well, it's in the book, you know. They can read it right there. So
that's true.
But I
don't have to be mocked, you know.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Oh, that is the perfect Halloween story for me. I mean, you know, that's the kind of thing that I'm going to remember, you know, when it comes around to that time of year, because, you know, you hear about those, I mean, you see those things on the horror movies, but you don't really hear stories of the real thing happening like that. That's fascinating. I'm glad, and I really appreciate you sharing it with us.
Let me tell you, I will say this, okay? For people that believe in vampires or want to believe or whatever you want to call it, and I'm assuming that's what it was, because that's what my instincts told me it was, okay? Not some ghoul or something like that, but, you know, if that's what a vampire is, it is nothing like you see in Twilight or any of these other things. This is not some, you know, elegant, well-spoken, whatever, well-dressed, personable thing.
Yeah.
You know, this thing was a huge, hideous predator. Pure and simple.
It brings to mind all these zombie movies that you're seeing and stuff right now. I mean, it's like maybe they're trying to tell us something, you know, through Hollywood. Who knows?
I don't know, but I'm, you know, if I had stuck around, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have been having this conversation, you know?
Oh, man, let alone your poor Doberman. Holy mackerel.
Yeah, he was a good dog. I miss him.
Yeah. Well, Max Hawthorne, thank you so much, buddy, for hanging out with us here on Spaced Out Sunday. We will keep tabs with you and on your new endeavors as you come up with your new... have you gotten a prospective title for your new Kronos Rising project, or is it still in the works?
The title's been set for a long time, but I never release titles in advance or have my guys do it. I have found that there are... how can I put this? Other authors that seem to like to feed off of your book.
Ah, yeah.
You know, like when my first Kraken novel, which was announced 2 years in advance, came out, right when it came out, there was like 6 or 8 Kraken books came out at the same time.
Oh, man. Okay.
You know, they like, you know, keywords, titles, things like that. It's like really unsavory and classless. So I never release title information in advance, even though I've had the title for ages.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
You know, when it's close to release date and we start doing our pre-release promotions, you know, then it's time.
Yep. Okay. Well, we will definitely talk to you at that point for sure. You have yourself a wonderful rest of the spring and summer out there. Hopefully you're going to have a wonderful year.
Oh, it's going to be a great fishing season. And thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, definitely. All right, Max, we appreciate it very much. We're going to close out here with a little bit of background music, and we're going to close it up. So thank you very much. We'll be back in a minute.
There once was a man who had some land in eastern Washington. On his land, this man, he had a deep, dark hole of pond. People came from miles around to throw their trash down in to see how deep the hole was and listen for its end. Then one day, that fateful day, they forced him off his land. They paid him off and sent him off down under with a plan. They melted the hole and covered it up so never could be found. So no one will ever know what's deep down in this ground. Yippee-yi-yay, yippee-yi-oh. There's a
Well, I want to remind everyone that Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. You can find out more information and music at bumblefoot.com. Special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars and at work, and in the chat rooms tonight, wherever you are around the world. Remember, this show is currently copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media